Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of 8 p.m. in Europe. I was just saying, like, the reason I'm 1 minute late, 2 minutes late is because there's always technical difficulties going on with me one way or another. But I'm here eventually. Obviously, we got mic issues on top of that, but 8 p.m. in Europe, second weekend in a row. The first time was so nice, I had to do it twice. And today, guys, we got a great episode ahead of us. Of course, as you guys can see from the title, from the thumbnail, the topic of today is Paris Saint-Germain. It's PSG. It's everybody's favorite laughingstock at the moment. It's the team that yet again has gone out at basically the first round of asking. They give us the group stage. Who doesn't these days? And they have gone out in the round of 16. And everyone knows that PSG is kind of like the team, the soft spot that I have. I love Messi. I love Neymar, Verratti, Mbappe. And the Champions League when United's not there, this is the team that I root for. So I'm sure you'll love to laugh at me, but I actually have another guest as well. And while you guys might know me as the casual PSG fan, the nonchalant PSG fan, I have a real Parisian here, guys. He goes by the name of Parisian Londoner. He is as hardcore PSG fan as you can get. I'm sure he's heartbroken, and probably his head is gone just as much as I was on Sunday after watching his team be eliminated by Bayern Munich. We may also have culture cams later in the show. I've sent him the link. He's probably going to want to laugh at me himself, so he might go after. But let me stop waffling. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my guest of today, Parisian Londoner. Stuart, how are you?
What an introduction, bro. I feel like Conor McGregor, and it's time, UFC introduction, yeah.
How are you,
I like
bro?
that. How you doing, bro? I'm good, man. I'm
myself.
good. Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. Of course. I mean, look, for each of these episodes, I like to say that I know European football. I watch it, of course, as often as I can. And that's why I made this show to begin with. But I can't speak as well as a diehard fan of these teams that I'm speaking about. So when it comes to PSG, and especially when it comes to people speaking in English about PSG, it doesn't get bigger than you. You guys have probably seen him on Don Robbie. You guys have seen him on the DR, AFTV. He's got his own stuff. He's working with PSG these days, so he's big time.
No plastic fans here, bro. I know we are suffering from new glory hunters that jumped on the train and were never here when we were bottom of the league and no one knew about us since the Jordan collaboration, And by the way, there's one guy in your show, in your podcast, he's always wearing some PSG Jordan stuff. What's his name?
Mayowa. He's got to connect over at Jordan, to be honest with you.
What's going on?
He's not messing with PSG, but he's got to connect. He's got to put me onto them, to be honest.
I thought he was a PSG fan. What team is he supporting?
He supports Chelsea.
See, that shows you that this football club is now a fashion brand. It's more of a fashion brand, bro. That's what we are mourning about. Someone said in the comment section, don't blame Neymar. I'm not going to blame Neymar at all. I'm not going to blame Neymar at all, because the problems we have at this football club is deeper than the players. It's deeper. It's the culture of the club, And people now support PSG for the wrong reasons, and the players are supporting PSG, are joining PSG side for the wrong reasons as well. So what I'm trying to say here is that what's happening at this football club, I usually use the saying Hollywood FC or assembling the Avengers, or it's just that the strategy does not work, bro. Football is more complicated than getting rid of Thiago Silva, our captain, a monster, saying that he's too old, and then he signs for Chelsea, and we saw what he did with Chelsea, and then you bring on Sergio Ramos to replace him. We don't understand, bro. Why are you doing this? If it's not to sell football kits, if it's not to promote the brand, if it's not to create some and boost the marketing around the club, etc., etc. So remember, I'm from the 2000s. I'm from the 90s. Sorry. So my PSG is my big PSG is the 2000s. Ronaldinho, JJ Okocha, Nicolas Nelka, Laurent Robert, except all those guys, I'm not going to pretend that I'm...
Pauletta, come on. Yeah, we know about PSG back then, man. Pauletta,
yeah, but no one knew about us back in the days. That's a fact, I'm not going to complain about the owners that injected a lot of money, and thanks to them, we won a lot of league titles. And that's just a fact. They boosted the image of the club, and now everyone knows about us. But thanks to them as well. But we won 18 titles before they joined as well, and we existed before Qatar joined as well. So the point I'm trying to make is that why are we not focusing more and David Ginola, by the way. We did a podcast with him, so have a look. Why are we not focusing on football and what's happening on the pitch rather than everything off the pitch and, you know, the marketing and everything? I know it's more than football at the end of the day. You need to think about this to generate revenues and everything. But if it's not your main focus, and your main focus is what's happening on the pitch and the titles and what you are showing to the world as a football team, then don't worry. People will buy kits. If you have a look at the ranking of clubs in terms of numbers of kits they sold in the world, it's not even working because PSG is that I think at the 11th place or 10th place.
You're
The
right.
clubs that are selling the more kits are the most successful clubs, i.e. Real Madrid, i.e. Bayern Munich, i.e. Manchester United, because they have history, they won loads of titles, etc.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So people buy football kits because of the titles and what the club represents from a football perspective, not really from a fashion perspective at the end of the day, because it's not really working anyway. So what we're trying to do here is that raise awareness around what PSG means to the Parisians, to the real PSG fans. I know, like Man City, you know, loads of people jumped on the train when the club started to be successful, and when you sign big players like sorry, I know there's someone in the comment section, massive FC Neymar fan, Messi, etc. So you bring the fans of the players with you. But nowadays, bro, Messi is right behind you. He cried when he left Barcelona. We all know that Messi is Barcelona, will always be Barcelona. So what I'm trying to say is that when you support a club, you should support a club not because of the player or the players, but because of the badge. It's a bit
I agree.
old-fashioned. Call it what you want, but what we're trying to do is badge before players all the way, bro. And there's no player should be above the club. That's just a fact. But people are taking the piss out of us, and rightfully so, because what the way we behave with the players is that we're letting them do whatever they want. You know, it's like what the players did with us. If you sent them to Manchester United or Real Madrid or Bayern Munich, they wouldn't have dared doing this, bro, because of the institution of the club. You know what I mean? And because we're young and the owners, they want to pretty much say yes to everything and to everyone, then people take the piss out of us, and rightfully so. So now we're pissed off, bro. We need a reset. We need a cleanup.
Yeah.
And what happened recently, a few days ago against Bayern Munich? What do you want me to say? Bayern, they were really good, strong team, physical. They have the European experience, they have the history, they have everything, bro. They know what they're doing. And us, we were like, I don't know, like shy. They're not really playing for the badge, the players as well. So you could tell that they wanted it more. And that's the problem. That's the problem, bro. You know, I'm not gonna do a monologue, but you know French football. You know, in the Paris region, we have loads of talents. After Brazil, the second pool of talent of football in the world. And you can check this, bro. That's just a fact.
It's
It's
France.
the Paris
France.
region.
Yeah.
And especially the Paris region, bro. The suburbs, everything. You go in 93, Sarcelles, whatever. You go everywhere. Everywhere, bro. So why are we not focusing
Educate
on
them,
the
bro.
talent we have?
Educate them, because these guys, they don't know about this kind of stuff, bro.
They
Educate
don't know
them.
Sarcelles. They don't know,
Yeah,
you know,
no,
they
no.
know those kind of, you know. So why are we not
Chat, where
focusing
do
on
you
the
think
talent we
Mars is
have?
from, by the way?
Thank
He's
you.
from
Thank you,
Sarcelles.
bro.
Come on.
Exactly, bro. So why are we not focusing on what the talent we have in the Paris region, and we pay, sorry about my friend, shitloads of money for Sergio Ramos, who has nothing to, again, I have nothing against those players. What I'm trying to explain is those players, they have nothing to prove anymore. Messi, whether you like it or not, Messi is finished football. He's completed everything, bro. He has nothing to prove to us PSG fans or to the club or to anyone. He's won everything. You bring Neymar, same as Neymar. He's won everything with Barcelona, and we know he tried to come back to Barcelona many times. And same, you bring Sergio Ramos. Sergio Ramos has nothing to prove anymore. So why are we not bringing players, even if they're not from the Paris region, by the way? But you know what? I'm gonna give you a stat. You're not gonna believe you is.
I think I know the one you're gonna tell me. I think I
In
know
the
which one you're gonna
past,
tell me.
in the past 6 years, we have only signed 3 players from the French league.
Mbappe,
How many? How many? Mbappe, Renato Sanchez,
Ekitike.
and Ekitike from Stade de Reims.
Yeah.
How many players from the French league the Premier League has signed? How many players from the
Bernardo
French? Because
Silva,
they,
Bakayoko,
bro,
Fabinho. You can go on and
they
on
call
and
us
on.
they call us Farmers League, yeah, but they like doing their little shopping in France as well. Huh? You know that. But why are we not doing this? Why are we not doing this? Why are we not focusing on the French league, on the Paris region players, and we just want the Hollywood FC thing? And it does not work. You can tell they've been forcing it for the past few years. It's not working, and people are taking the piss out of us, rightfully so, because it's not working. I'm sorry, it's not working. So again, what happened against Bayern Munich is just the result of what's been put in place for the past few years. And we kept telling this to everyone, and they were like, "Nah, that's fine. Change the gaffer. Bring on Zidane. You can bring Zidane. Do you think Zidane's gonna do anything, bro? He's not gonna change anything. The big guys upstairs, Qatar, the Qatar Emir of Qatar, he's the one deciding everything, bro. Even they wanted to bring Thomas Tuchel back. Ancelotti did not work. Bring whoever you want. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. You need to change something like from the roots, the culture, and hopefully it will open the eyes of everyone that we need to change something at this football club. It's not working. Sorry, I spoke a lot, but I had a lot of things to say, bro.
Nah, I love it, bro. I love it. That's 10 minutes of bars, to be honest with you. That's a cipher right there, bro. I love it, though. That's passion for you guys. But look, I was going to come on here, Stuart, and say the exact same thing that you've said today, to be honest with you. I had like this whole thing that I've been thinking, not just for the last week, but for a long time watching PSG. Guys, I think at the end of the day, the issue with PSG is that they don't have an identity. There's no culture at the club, or if there was one in the past, it's been completely erased. Think about, chat, all of the big teams in Europe: Barcelona, Real Madrid, Manchester United, Arsenal, even. They all have an identity. You can all tell, you can tell with each one of those clubs how they want to play, the history of that club in terms of how they've always played. What defines a player that plays for that club? I can tell you, for example, what a Manchester United player is. A Manchester United player for me is fast, aggressive, plays on the counterattack. You think of wingers on each side who hug the touchline. That's what Manchester United's identity is. You think of Barcelona, tiki-taka. They prioritize technical small players. They prioritize possession-based football. You can look at Arsenal in the same way. Real Madrid, the identity of that club is winning, ruthless mentality. You look at and Manchester City, a club that was bought around the same time that PSG were. You kind of compare those two projects. I know it always happens.
That's a very good example.
They have an identity, especially under Pep Guardiola. They are producing
very good example,
developing an identity, and that even when Pep is gone, that identity will maintain. PSG do not have an identity in terms of their identity. The last few years have just been buying the best players around Europe, putting them all together in one team, hiring a manager who probably had no say in buying them in the first place, and asking that manager to then produce miracles with a bunch of players that
he might like. You got it. Thank you.
He might not like some of them. So then you have some players that are left from the Ancelotti era. You look at Verratti. He's from way back then. You look at Marquinhos under, I think that was also Ancelotti. I'm thinking some players under Emery after that. Some players under Tuchel under that. Some players under Pochettino under that. And now players that have been bought under Galtier and now Campos as of late. You have all these different players that were bought under different coaches, and they don't gel together whatsoever, and they don't suit a certain style of play, the PSG identity, if that even exists. And you're asking each manager to come in and, again, produce miracles. And if they don't, they're out the door and the next manager is tasked with doing that. That's an unsustainable way of being successful. Of course, in Ligue 1, you're going to win titles. I'm someone who doesn't like
even in the Ligue 1, like we lost the title, I think, 3 times when they were here, to Lille, to Monaco as well. Like I know the competition in the Ligue 1 is not the same as the Premier League, and we are overall dominating the French league, and that's a fact. But again, it's not only down to the Ligue 1. It's not because, again, last time people were blaming the French league, saying it's not competitive. That's why we're not performing in the Premier League, in the Champions League, etc. I say you guys are the most competitive league in the world. But if you compare La Liga, Bayern Munich in Bundesliga, or even in Serie A in Italy, it's pretty much the same clubs every time, either Dortmund, Bayern, then it's either Barca or Real Madrid. You know, those clubs, they're dominating their own league for a while now as well. But look what they do in the, you know, they have the history, the experience, etc. So at the end of the day, it's not only the league. What I'm trying to say here is that style of play, proper long-term strategy in terms of football, and stop trying to this brand fashion brand thing. Like, we don't want this, bro. That's fine if you do a special thing with like Liverpool did recently with LeBron James. You see, they
Yeah.
did what they did with LeBron James. It's fine, it's
Yeah.
cool. It's cool, but it's not what they are insisting on. Liverpool is not insisting on their collaboration and new kits with LeBron James, and then they want to attract fans just because they love LeBron James and the collaboration they did with him. Liverpool is focusing on winning titles, building a football team, etc., and the history of the club. And if you can do some stuff on the side like this, do it. But it shouldn't be the main thing. That's the thing, you know?
I think so too. And I go back to the point that you make about Ligue 1, because I think that's a great point, bro. As much as people will diss Ligue 1 or say, like you said, it's a farmers league, you look at the best teams on the planet, all of their players come from Ligue 1. You look at Real Madrid, their Ballon d'Or winner is a product of Lyon. They just bought Aurélien Tchouameni, who's one of the best midfielders in Europe, who, let's be honest, PSG would kill for a player like that. Eduardo Camavinga, why were PSG...
Apparently, Thierry Henry is the best. Thierry Henry is the best ever player of the Premier League, and they took him from Monaco, right?
Yeah, you look all around Europe. Varane, Pogba, N'Golo Kante. I mean, for God's sake, France just won the World Cup and went to the final 2 years, 2 tournaments in a row. So clearly, there's great talent coming from that region. And you talk about the Bayerns, you talk about the Barcelonas, you talk about the Juventuses. Those are teams that have also dominated their league, but also had success in Europe.
Why do you think they leave? Last time, why do you think the talented French players decide to leave the French league? Because, you know, last time I spoke with, I'm not going to mention his name, but, you know, we live in the same area. QPR is around the corner. And back in the days, there was this French defender that was playing for QPR. And this French defender was coming from the south of France, and he was formed and a former player from the Girondins Bordeaux. Okay. And talented. And even the QPR, yeah. I'm not going to mention his name.
Though, right? It's Mbia, no?
No.
I'm thinking of someone else.
No, it's not him. He's back at Girondins Bordeaux now. And he said to me why he decided to sign for QPR, because even the mid-table or top-table clubs of the French league, they were not offering as interesting stuff as QPR in the championship. So even clubs in the championship, they can attract French talented players more than mid-table clubs in the Ligue 1. That's it. That's mad, bro. That's mad, because
it's crazy.
What the investment is apart from PSG, who's putting loads of fees in the French league? No one.
There's no one. 100%. I hear all this time about the Super League, right, Stuart? And I know Premier League fans are really against it, because their whole thing is, oh, why is it our fault that the other leagues do not generate as much interest, or like, oh, they're corrupt and it's not our fault to say. But the Ligue 1 has not done anything wrong in that regard. The Ligue 1 is just incapable, and it's always been that case. Even in the 2000s, you had, when Lyon were winning eight leagues in a row, it was the same thing.
7 or 8, yeah, I remember,
yeah, absolutely. So no, as someone again who keeps an eye out on PSG, I think it's a real shame. And I mean, you look at the academy, for me is the biggest tragedy of all, because you can say, for example, oh, Ligue 1 teams don't want to sell to PSG. Okay, it gets to a point, maybe fair enough. You can't do anything about that. But like you said about the PSG Academy in the region of Paris, the amount of talent that comes out of this, guys, this is one of the major footballing hubs, not just in Europe, but of the planet in terms of producing top players. You look at PSG versus Bayern, 2 of the last 3 editions, the guy who's knocking them out is a PSG Academy graduate,
Kingsley
Coman. He was literally your player. He was literally your player. He's gone on to become one of the best players in Europe. He's gone on to become a World Cup finalist for France, and he's eliminating you once in a final and now in the round of 16.
There you go.
That has to wake you up at some point and say, look, maybe we should stop looking around Europe and find out where the great talent is.
We are aware of this. The problem is that we do not, as you're a Manchester United fan, isn't it?
I'm a Man United fan, yeah.
Okay, so apparently our owners, you next in line, huh?
Yeah, that's why I keep an eye out on you guys.
bro, be careful. You're the next one. Yeah. See what's happening with us? You're the next one. But bro, like, is that you when I was saying like people from, as you said, people from the academy are rejected. We don't give them a chance, not necessarily from the academy, but even like talented PSG players that are not necessarily from coming. Look what happened with Choupo-Moting.
Another
Whoa,
one that
bro.
you had, and he's eliminating you now.
You know, we have loads of example. And Christopher Nkunku, now apparently they want to sign him back because he's smashing it in RB Leipzig. And except you know, it's what's going on.
Stuart, I
We
remember
got
with
rid of
Christoph Nkunku. I remember with Nkunku, right? I remember in the Champions League watching Thomas Tuchel playing him as a wingback. He basically, the only opportunities he got at PSG were to play wingback, and now he's one of the hottest commodities in Europe, scoring tons of goals playing in attack for Leipzig, and now he's going to Chelsea. And it just goes back to, why didn't you just give him the chance to play in his position in the first place? I look at Mike Maignan, the best goalkeeper for me in Europe, or one of the best in Europe the last few years. Instead, you go for a guy like Donnarumma, and there's a super chat here because I'm interested in knowing your thoughts on him. What are your thoughts on Donnarumma? It looks like AC Milan pulled off the coup of the century, getting Maignan and letting you guys get Donnarumma.
Bro, I might get rusted, right? But if you, it mixed feelings amongst the fan. But I'd say I have no pretension to speak on behalf of all the PSG fans at all. But we have a special relationship with Keylor Navas. He helped us a lot. He was really good with us, and we really like Keylor Navas. So when Donnarumma was signed, we were really surprised because he was going really well with Keylor Navas and he was delivering. So, and then obviously he won, Donnarumma won the Euros and keeper of the tournament, etc., etc. And he's young, so he's the future of the club. That's fine. But as soon as he joined, Navas was number 2. So we were like, what's going on? What? And on the top of this, Donnarumma is, don't get me wrong, he's a great keeper, amazing keeper. His footwork, every time he's touching the ball with his feet, we're shaking, bro. We're like, madness gonna happen, you know. He's really shaky, you know, with his feet. But he's all right, he's doing the job. But again, if you ask me if we should have went for Mike Maignan from the academy instead of Donnarumma, I'd say to you, let's go Mike Maignan, 100%.
It's baffling to me, man. I mean, Donnarumma, Navas in general, I spare a thought for him, right? Real Madrid, such a great goalkeeper, and he gets kicked out the door for Courtois. He comes to PSG, he thinks he found a home here, and the same thing happens to him a few years later. Spare a thought for that guy, man. But PSG, did you, going into the season, I know based on what I'm gathering, you enter most seasons kind of optimistic, like hoping for the best, but almost expecting the worst. But with Christophe Galtier, who for me is the next topic of conversation, because I'll tell you this, Stuart, I was never a fan of Pochettino. Even when he was at Spurs, to be honest, he was really linked to United.
Me neither.
And I always said I don't want Pochettino at United. And even recently, when we were linked with him again at the start of, or in January, when it was between him and Ten Hag, I was someone who was saying Ten Hag has to be the guy. So he exits the club, and me, maybe I'm not as wise as you in terms of, I haven't been watching PSG as long as you have. So you've seen.
Yeah, the Ojo is gone, bro. Yeah. Well, I have the PSG game in the background anyway, so take your time, bro. There's a corner kick now. Great save from Donnarumma. Okay, good. We were talking about him actually. But yeah, I need to watch the first half, so I can do the halftime show. Yeah, go on. It's back now. No, so, yeah, it's back. It's back.
I'll go about the mic for a second just so you can answer this question. So Pochettino, again, I'm not a huge fan of him when he was at Spurs. I didn't want him at United. I never thought at PSG long-term was going to work. So you get Galtier this year. In your head, were you maybe thinking in terms of, PSG becoming more of a French club, getting a French manager, someone who's had success in Ligue 1? Did you have a lot of optimism going into the season, and seeing how it's kind of played out? Do you want to stick with him? Do you think he's out of his depth? What are your thoughts on Christophe Galtier?
Okay, a few different things on Christophe Galtier. Remember, Christophe Galtier is a second choice because PSG tried to go for Zidane. They tried to go for top-class, world-class gaffers. They all said no. They all said no, we don't want to join. And rightfully so, because they probably know that if they join, they will not have the power they need to implement what they want to implement, because Mbappe almost scored. And rightfully so. So Christophe Galtier joined. When he joined, he had an amazing domestic record because he won loads of titles with loads of French clubs. So we expected him at least to make us win all the domestic trophies this season, at least minimum. He kicked us out from the French Cup when he was at Nice, and he joins us, and we getting kicked out by Marseille, whatever. Uh, Maybe that's an inside job. We never know. And and bro, like he had no real European experience as well, so we were a bit doubtful around him signing and helping us at a European level. But again, that was a new strategy, kinda, because he came with Luis Campos and he worked with Luis Campos for a while at many clubs. So they came almost as two, as a team. So which was reassuring because I remember Leonardo, the previous sporting director, was doing his things on his side and he was not really getting along with all the gaffers and he was creating a lot of attention, or a lot of tension, sorry. And I was like, okay, now they used to work together. Maybe it will be a bit more calm and it will make more sense. Unfortunately, I think too many egos for him to manage, bro. I think too many egos for him to manage. And on the top
It's a
of
familiar
this,
tale, right? It seems like that's the story every single year.
every single year, too many egos to manage. And on the top of this, like the previous gaffers, we're not really sure that he has full power to decide even the starting 11, bro, to be fair. Can you imagine Christophe Galtier saying Messi underperformed the 2 or 3 previous games? I'm gonna bench him. I'm gonna play.
No.
I'm gonna play Warren Zaire Emery. Instead, he's playing tonight. Warren Zaire Emery, our gem. No one touches Zaire Emery. Is our pride. No one touches him. We want to keep him.
Until they sell him and go and try and find someone else from Germany or something like that.
And then he will play against us and he will bully us again. That's the story of our life.
C'est la vie.
C'est la vie, exactement. So yeah, no, Galtier. To answer your question, I think that's what I saw recently. The owners are willing to keep him and Luis Campos, even if we saw what happened recently, and they are really impatient. And most of the time, when we're getting kicked out, they think changing the gaffer is going to change something, but you can tell it's not changing anything. And we are complaining about the lack of patience from our owner. And keeping Galtier as a gaffer and probably changing the way they behave with him and giving him more power to decide and implement something and wait for things to happen will probably be helpful and will probably be beneficial for the club. So on my end, I'm really disappointed with his first season with us. Really disappointed. But at the same time, we are complaining about the lack of patience, style of play, etc., etc. And this type of stuff needs to take time. Look, Pep Guardiola never won the Champions League. He's been at City for how long now? And the owners are still trusting him, and eventually will come. But again, it depends on what you want to put in place. And what I want to put in place is an identity, is a style of play, is a football strategy, and that means patience. So even if that season was for me, the season is almost over, bro. To be fair with you. Out of the French Cup, it's our cup, like Arsenal's cup with the FA Cup. We have a very special relationship with the French Cup. Getting kicked out by Marseille is also something on the top of this. Then run of 16, 6 times in the past 8 years or something like that. So it's always season is dead. If we win the league, okay, that's fine. We will win the league. It's cool. I'm not gonna undermine this, but again, these type of things needs to take time. And I don't know. I'm frustrated. I want to get rid of him a little bit, but at the same time, we need to be patient and give him some time so we can see what he's really worth. So mixed feelings, 50-50, bro.
No, I hear you, right? And I mean, like, I think the thing with Galtier is it really depends. Do you see a long-term future with him? Because I agree with you. I think PSG, now they have to look forward to the future and see. I tweeted this out, and I know a lot of people didn't like it because I used the word era, but I said for me, this PSG era of the last few years, and I speak mostly about Messi, Neymar, Mbappe, but I'm even speaking more than that. I think you look at the core of the previous team of Marquinhos, Verratti, Kimpembe. I think it is starting to decline now. You're seeing these guys.
Well, remember, we brought players like I have so much respect for him, but Gianluigi Buffon as well.
Yeah,
Buffon came. Like the way it started with this, like like the legends, the retired legends and stuff. Bro, there's something wrong with this, bro. You can't. What's the plan? What's
100%.
the plan?
It's not. It's but the way you're describing it sounds like what United did for a few years when we were going and buying. We're getting Zlatan from you guys
Yeah,
for one season, and we were getting Falcao for a short term. Bastian Schweinsteiger. At the end of the day, these guys are mercenaries, man. They're here because their club didn't think they were good enough anymore.
exactly.
They have one more year. They see a club that's offering them one last payday, and they come in, but they really have no interest. And as much as I love Messi, right? Messi is my favorite player, but Messi does not want to be at PSG. Messi did never want to
Mm,
leave Barcelona. He was forced out of Barcelona for reasons that he couldn't control. And the only reason he went to PSG was because A, Jack Grealish was signed a week before him and City couldn't afford him. And B, Paris Saint-Germain were the only team on the planet that could really afford his wages for what he was demanding. So
yeah,
he never had any
exactly.
intention of signing for PSG to begin with. Now we look at
Yeah,
Neymar, and I'm a fan of Neymar. Everyone know I'm a fan of the big three in general. I like all three of them.
yeah, yeah.
Neymar is one of my favorite players. I still back the decision to come to PSG, even though some
Let me
say it
ask
was
you
a
a question now,
selfish.
bro. You like Neymar? Would you take Neymar at Manchester United? Objectively, bro. Would you take
At his
Neymar at
at his
Manchester
age,
United?
would I take Neymar at Manchester United?
Yes, that's my question.
At his age, with his wages and his injury record, no, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't.
Yeah, but he hasn't played the full season with us. Never,
That's
ever,
why. But that's
ever,
for me. Like
ever.
his availability. For me, availability is the best ability. It doesn't matter how good you are. I look at someone like Pogba, who wasn't his injury record wasn't even as
Same.
bad as Neymar's. He was playing more games than Neymar, but it's still not enough. So, as big of a fan as I am of Neymar, I think any club that takes him has to be a little cautious because
Okay,
you're
someone
coming with a
said
player that every
something very
February in the
interesting.
Champions League he's absent.
You said not this current Neymar, but prime Neymar. Yes, but when was prime
Absolutely.
Neymar? Was prime Neymar
Well,
at Barcelona or at PSG?
I'm of the belief, right? I don't know if you know Culture Cams. I run this show with him. I always tell him that for me, the best version of Neymar I ever saw was his first 2 years at PSG. His first 2 years at
I
PSG
think
for me was the best
I
I saw.
disagree. I strongly disagree. I think it was his prime years when he was playing for Barcelona. With the front three they have with Messi and Luis Suarez. I'm sorry, he
Interesting.
was a beast. He was a beast, but I think his prime years were at Barcelona, not with us.
Okay, but anyways, regardless, that's fair enough. I would have taken Neymar back then. I would take
Yeah.
if Neymar right now was available 38 games a season, I would still take him. It's mostly
Okay.
because of his injuries. He's too unreliable in terms of every February when the Champions League comes back, he's absent. Whether it's through injury, whether it's he's partying back in Brazil. I love Neymar. I always say for me, he's the
Mm.
most disrespected superstar footballer I've ever seen in my life because for me the guy is a genius. But at this point in his career, I don't think you can rely on him. And as a United fan who wants to see his team continue with this kind of ideology under Ten Hag that they
I
want to
have
go through.
another question for you because people don't understand why we have a special relationship with Neymar because you like Neymar. If
Yeah.
Neymar was at United and as a player of United said during an interview for his Red Bull freestyle league that he has, and the journalist came and said to him, "What is your best football memory as a football player?" And he said, as a Manchester United fan, my best football memory as a football player was when we did the remontada against Manchester United. And then the journalist
I
asked
would be
him
I would
about,
be I would
wait,
be fuming. I'd be fuming.
then the journalist asks, it's one mistake, second mistake. The journalist come and says, what is your best dressing room memory as a football player? And as a Man United fan, he says, when I celebrated the remontada against Man United as a Barcelona player. That's
Yeah,
what he said
I'd
exactly
be fuming.
and changed Man United for PSG. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be fuming.
And
Yeah, I'd be fuming.
you know what I mean? So at the same time, he did from a stat perspective, but football is not only about transfermarket.com, bro. That's the thing. Football is about attending games, watching the player play on the pitch,
Yeah.
showing how the player behaves with the fans as well. Look at what Casemiro is doing with you, bro. Casemiro is normally branded Real Madrid. As soon as he joined, look at the way he behaves on the pitch, the attitude, the connection with
Mm,
the fans, when he's doing everything he can. It's a player that you obliged to like, bro. I'm
I
sorry,
agree. I
we
agree.
never had this with Neymar.
No, I agree. I agree. It's always been, and I mean, the flirting with potentially going back to Barcelona in the past. That's always been in the air. But anyways, for me, I kind of brought up Messi and Neymar because I believe Messi never wanted to be here, and I would be very surprised if he's still here next season. I know like the rumors are still saying, oh, he's more
He
preferred to sign a contract, but the way it's going, I could see him leaving if not next season, then the season after. But regardless, whether you think he stays or not,
he had his
Messi at
ankle
PSG,
injury, and he's out of surgery now, and apparently, obviously, he's out until the rest of the season.
yeah.
So how do you want to sell Neymar now? He's injured and out for the rest of the season. Go for it now. It's hard to
Tough.
sell him.
It's tough. It's tough, but I think, anyways, I go back to this, right? I think the PSG era is over because I think Messi will be gone soon. Whether you think next year or the year after that, he's on a short-term contract. He will not be at PSG for much longer. Neymar, I
Yes,
don't
we
think will
scored.
be at
We scored. Sorry, against
scored?
Brest. Carlos Soler, the ghost. We call him the ghost.
the
The ghost. He's been transparent since he signed. I don't know why he was at that club. He signed. Thank you. He just called. Thank you.
About time.
Thank you. About time. But yeah, bro. I mean, again, you said the PSG era, and I think the title of your video is the end of PSG. I think that's the title,
Yeah.
right?
I was
The end of
Sifini,
PSG.
but yeah.
PSG, c'est fini. It's not the end of PSG, depending on who you're talking to. If you talk to an Hollywood FC Messi, FC Neymar, FC Sergio Ramos fan, he will tell you next club of the player, he will support that club.
Yeah.
We are PSG. PSG is not necessarily the owners. It's not the players that are playing for the club. It's the badge and the Parisians that are the true PSG fans, right? So the era, I hope, the era of PSG, the modern era of PSG that we know under the strategy of Hollywood FC, etc. I hope it's dead. I hope it's over. I hope it's finished, and I hope we're gonna start something fresh.
And
So I agree with your title.
I think you're right, and I think they will. I think, like I said, Messi for me is gone in the next 2 years, if not next year. I think Neymar is gone in the next year or two. Mbappe, who I'm yet to get your opinion on him, but like, bro, he's flirting with Real Madrid every single summer. I know he signed this 2-year contract, and I know he keeps saying PSG is my club. I'm just focused on this season, but every year the guy is flirting with a different club. You look at again now Verratti, now Marquinhos and Kimpembe. I think they'll stay at the club, but I think their influence is going to start dwindling more and more. Like Verratti,
Said, he said, give us Mbappe.
Yeah. I don't know if Mbappe ever wants to work with Qataris again, by the way. I don't know if he's going to want to work with them again.
Bro, that's very interesting. You know, we need to talk about this before we end the stream. The Harry Maguire rumor. I need to understand this shit, bro. I'm sorry.
Rumor to who?
PSG. Yes.
Hey, for you, my friend.
We linked to. Yeah, I know.
For you, my friend, 10 million.
For you, friend, it's 10 million. Take it. We don't want it anymore. Take it. On sale. No, bro, that's too much. And if Qatar are your owners, yeah, go on.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say one last thing I want to ask you, because I know you have to get back to this guy. I'm telling you guys, this guy is doing stuff with the club. So he's taking time out of his day to do this. I appreciate that. But the last thing I want to ask you, my guy, the last thing I want to ask you about PSG. Going into next season, you've kind of gave your thoughts on Galtier. You've kind of gave your thoughts on the superstars. What's your ideal summer look like? What does it look like in terms of who's leaving, who's coming in, who's staying, and manager-wise? What's your dream PSG situation going to next season?
I'd say we need to change the structure of direction of the club.
Yeah.
Who has the power of decision?
That's my question. How would you do that?
Maybe change the president of the club. Nasser El Khalifi, maybe. I'm not saying necessarily the owners, because we know the owners, they're sitting in Qatar. Is the head of Qatar, the Emir of Qatar, right?
Yeah.
And they report to him. And now they're interested in you as well, by the way. Someone said we will probably be, we will have the crumbs from Manchester United, because, that's interesting, because at first they were interested in you before PSG. And Manchester United said no. They wanted United. Yeah.
Manchester United said about why the Qataris bought you guys. We have to talk about Sarkozy. We have to talk about Platini. We have to go way deeper than just Manchester United if we want to go.
Exactly. There's a lot of things that are blended in this football club, and we want to change this. We want to focus on the academy, the recruitment, a proper gaffer that can suggest and implement a style of play, has decision power, can decide who's playing, who's on the bench, like Pep Guardiola is doing. If Pep Guardiola decides to bench Kevin De Bruyne, the guys from Abu Dhabi, they're not going to go to him and say, oh, Pep, Why you benching Kevin De Bruyne? What do you mean I'm benching? He's one of our best players. Yeah, I'm the gaffer. I need to decide this. This is my job. We need someone that can do this. Whoever it is, it can be Galtier, it can be Zidane, it can be whoever you want. Even bring back Thomas Tuchel. Even if we say don't come back with your ex, that's fine. Bring him back in different conditions. I'll be more than happy. And then get rid of the stars who the contract is ending, such as Messi. Messi has nothing to prove anymore. Great, best player in the world, whatever. Get rid of him. Neymar is injured all the time. Even, you know what? Even it hurts me to say, bro. Verratti, over. It's finished. He did more than he had to do with us. Verratti,
that breaks
sell
my
him.
heart, bro. That breaks my
It
heart.
breaks my
bro.
heart as well, bro.
Yeah, I
But
love him.
even Verratti, he did good. Now get rid of him, etc. And refresh the team. Even if the players are struggling in the beginning, but you guys like saying this in the UK. Trust the process. But what is the process? We need a process this summer.
Yeah.
That's
You need
all I
something
want.
to trust to begin with. Yeah.
Exactly. We need a process. There's no process now. That's all I want.
I hear you, bro. Look, I'm gonna let you get back to your thing, but guys, my guy Stuart, man, he's preached. And if you guys want to see more of his content, I've left all of his information down in the description. I'm sure you'll see me and him doing stuff in the future. To be honest,
Yeah, we should, bro. We should.
Find
We
many
should.
French/English speaking speakers,
And,
so you'll see us.
we will probably be oil brothers in the near future.
Hey, once we go Qatar, you never go back.
Exactly. You never know. Yojo, bro.
Yeah, that's why I was fixing that real quick. Stuart,
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you go though, bro. Thank you again for coming on the stream, guys.
Have a good one. Thanks a lot for the invite.
Of course, bro. We'll speak soon.
Bye. Take care. Bye. Have a good one. Allez Paris.
Allez. Give me 1 second, guys, just to fix this mic. Oh, Brest just scored. They're saying Brest just scored.
Are you taking the piss?
What?
No way. Oh my days.
Hey, man, I'll catch you. Guys, give me 1 second just to fix my mic, yo. Give me 1 second. I'm weak. All right, guys. All right. You guys can hear me, right? It's good. Yo, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Obviously, we're gonna keep streaming. The show does not stop. But all I gotta say to Stuart, who's still in the back, when it rains, it pours, brother. When it rains, it pours. PSG. I want to know your thoughts as well. Second, guys, we might have to just do the mic. Is the audio okay this way, guys? Let me know, because I'm gonna try and fix this mic, but if not, we'll just go no. We'll go no mic. Let me know. What you guys saying? 1-1 he cut out. The mic is cooked. The mic is cooked. It's good now. You guys reckon it's good now? I don't need the mic. Let me try it one last time, just because I want it to be as good as possible for you guys. Hold up. Okay, we'll try the mic one more time. Guys, that was Stuart, Parisian Londoner. Thank you again for him coming on the show, but we're not done yet. We still got more to talk about. No guarantee, I may have Culture Camps coming on because I know he's got a few choice words to say about me. They got a few choice words to say about Messi, Neymar, Kylian, but there's no guarantee of that either. So let's go back to the show. The PSG era is cooked, guys. It's as simple as that. And I'm going to go back in case you guys missed what Stuart was saying, what Parisian Londoner was saying, but ultimately all of PSG's problems come down to a lack of identity. And I'll say it again in case you guys missed it the first time, or maybe you guys just need to hear it again. Think of every single top football club on the planet. They all have an identity. They all have a culture. They all have something that defines them. They all have a way of playing or a way of doing things that the minute you hear their club, you think of that. I'll go back through the clubs. Manchester United, they have a culture. They have an identity. And to be honest with you, the last few years, they haven't had an identity. And that's what's killed them the most. Ollie came in with this so-called identity and bringing back the Man United way of playing, but he never really did it. Man United's identity will always be, and I know new managers come in and they come with new thoughts and new principles, but the identity of the football club stays the same. You look at United, even this year under Ten Hag, the identity of United still stays in the way he plays. Counter-attacking, fast, aggressive, on the break, wingers on either side that burn defenders. Okay, we're getting away from that, but that's the ethos of Manchester United. That's the key word, ethos, identity. Barcelona probably have more of a footballing identity than any club on the planet. Tiki-taka, possession style of play, small, intricate midfielders who are technical. You look at Manchester City, a club who, let's be real, before 2008 were nobodies, but in that period, which is about the same amount of time as PSG have been a football club under the Qataris, they've developed an identity, especially under Pep Guardiola. Forget about even before Pep came, they were developing the structure of their club, the higher-ups, the directors of football, the scouts, to be in the identity, the style, the ethos that they wanted to represent. And now under Pep, they are building this identity that even once he leaves, they will still have it. Arsenal, Real Madrid, Chelsea, they all have an identity, a way of doing things. PSG don't have a footballing identity and it's killing them. Buying the best players from all around the world, the Messis, the Neymars, the Mbappes, and putting them in one club, stuck with a bunch of guys who probably aren't even good enough to play for the best teams in their leagues, right? I think of Carlos Soler. Would he get into Barcelona or Real Madrid? No. I look at Danilo Pereira. Would he get into the best teams on the planet? No. I look at Fabiano Ruiz, who I actually think is a decent player, but under PSG for me has been awful. Would he get into the big teams in the world? Probably not. So you're buying these big players who, let's be real, for the most part, don't want to be there for footballing reasons, i.e. Messi, and putting them next to players that, let's face it, are not Champions League winning caliber players. And then on top of that, you give them to managers who never had a say in buying those players in the first place. They're basically given a stack of players, whether they like them or not, no choice. Go win us a Champions League with that. We'll get rid of this mic. They did it with Ancelotti. They did it with Thomas Tuchel. They did it with Unai Emery. They did it with Maurizio Pochettino. They just did it with Christophe Galtier. And they will end up ultimately doing it with my man, the next manager that comes in, whether it's Zinedine Zidane, whether it's whoever it is. That's not a sustainable way of winning, guys. It'll win you the Ligue 1. Of course it will. And even that, right? The last 5 years, they've lost it to Monaco and to Lille. So it's not even a guarantee. It'll win you the odd Coupe de France. It'll win you the odd Coupe de la Ligue. It'll win you those. In the Champions League, when you're competing against teams that have identities, that have principles, that have heritage, it will always, always, always fall short, guys. That's the harsh reality of the situation. And I go back to PSG's academy, PSG's grip on Ligue 1 or their lack thereof. If you missed the stat that Stuart gave you, in the last 6 years, where we've seen this great Monaco team produce unbelievable players, you look at Napoli. Who's the top scorer in Serie A? Victor Osimhen. Where did he play before Napoli? Played in Lille. Look at the current Ballon d'Or holder, Karim Benzema. Where did he come from? Ligue 1. You look at the player they just bought, Aurélien Tchouameni, Camavinga. The best players in Europe all come from Ligue 1 for the most part, or they're all French players. Kolo Muani in France, Marcus Thuram in France, Mike Maignan at Milan, Christophe Nkunku at Leipzig. You look at Konate, I'm pretty sure is even from the PSG academy. Kingsley Coman, who's eliminated PSG now twice in a final in the round of 16. Some of the best players around Europe come from PSG's academy. They come from their backyard. They didn't even have to go buy them. They literally had them to begin with. And because of their fondness and their obsession with just buying big, shiny toys, they go for them rather than just trusting what's at home. Christophe Nkunku was playing at right wing back under Thomas Tuchel. That's the only time he ever got chances at right wing back. And now he's one of the most feared attackers in Europe. That's ridiculous. You look at the stranglehold or lack thereof that they have in Ligue 1. The best players in the country are going to other teams because PSG doesn't have, whether it's just the sensibility or the awareness or even their mind in the right place to just go and buy at home. Just go and buy at home, guys. Look at what Monaco has produced in terms of talent. Lille, Lyon, Rayan Cherki. For me, Next up, Cherki is next up for me in terms of best European talents. I guarantee you he doesn't end up at PSG unless things change. I guarantee you Cherki will not be a PSG player. He'll go to Real Madrid, go to the Premier League. It won't be at PSG. And that's a failure on the club. Xavi Simons, that's another one, right? He was literally their player. Go look who's probably the most promising youngster in the Dutch league this year. It's him. It's him, guys. It's as simple as that. Ah, man. I see some people here saying, do you think Cavani, Di Maria was the glue? No, but they were players who really wanted to be there. They were players that, for me, understood the club. And I know I'm saying, trust the youth and trust the French players, but those two, they got what it meant to play for PSG. And the way that both of them left the club, for me, is disgraceful. I add Thiago Silva on top of that as well. Thiago Silva was PSG's best defender. He was one of the best defenders in the world for years, by the way, right? People only started realizing when he came to Chelsea, but anyone who's been properly watching European football knew this guy at Milan, and they know him at PSG now. Top defender. The less said, the better. And they let him go. And his replacement, they let him go, guys, because they didn't want to give him a long-term contract. They thought he was too old. So naturally, his replacement is Sergio Ramos, who's around the same age, maybe a few years younger, worse than him, and coming from Real Madrid because they didn't want to give enough money. One man's trash, another man's treasure. That, for me, is ridiculous. So I look at Silva, Cavani, the way they kicked him out of the club, for Icardi, who's not at the club anymore to begin with, and then Di Maria, who's currently tearing it up for Juventus. This is failure on a grand stage, and they're finally kind of reaping the failures of that. I want to say reaping the rewards, but they're reaping the failures of that. And that's why PSG, they have to really reanalyze how they want to do things going forward, because Messi is gone. Everyone knows me. Everyone knows Messi is my favorite player. But Messi never wanted to be at the club in the first place. The only reason he ended up at PSG is because Jack Grealish was signed a week before him. A week before him. If they hadn't signed Jack Grealish, Messi would have been a Manchester City player. I guarantee it. And B, because he had no choice but to leave Barcelona. There were conditions outside of his control. And PSG were the only team that could afford his wages. Outside of that, he's used PSG as basically a way. He's used PSG as a way of staying fit for Argentina. So every international break, he uses PSG as basically keeping him match fit. Outside of that, guys, he has no interest. Come on. He doesn't die for PSG. He doesn't give a shit about PSG. Once his contract expires, he'll probably leave PSG. So that's one player. Neymar is on the way out. I think that much is evident. Already Mbappe wanted him out of the club to begin with. And I think once Mbappe's contract expires, he will not make the same mistake and re-sign for the club. Verratti, Marquinhos, Kimpembe, the old spine, that's on the way out. So PSG has to think about going forward, how do they rebuild this team and how do they not make the same mistakes that they've made in the last 10 years? I think that comes in buying the best French talent available, whether it's a Thuram, whether it's a Kolo Muani, whether it's buying the Fofana from Monaco. There's top talent in this league. They have to go that direction. Whether it's trusting their academy more. Some of the players that are coming up in the ranks, they have to do that as well. They cannot make the same mistakes because PSG is too big of a city. Paris is too big of a city for PSG to make those same mistakes. But we'll see how that goes. As of yet, PSG are done. This season is done. Ligue 1 is all they have left to compete for. That league is basically done, barring a complete and utter disaster that even PSG, I'd be surprised, would be capable of. They're out both cup competitions. They're out of the Champions League. Christophe Galtier will probably not last into next season. And their players are no longer interested in being there. So we'll see how it goes for PSG. I don't have much hope. But it's another season of disappointment. Let me know as well in the chat what you guys think of PSG. I'll go through some of your comments. I do have other topics as well, guys. It isn't just a PSG show. Otherwise, it'd be pretty depressing. But I got other topics, but I'll go through some of your comments as well. We're still talking about PSG. Brother, have you seen the title of the show? This is a PSG show, man. Considering the hotbed of talent Paris has, it's criminal that Paris' biggest team doesn't pay any attention to it. Facts. PSG had an identity under Tuchel. He was elite for them. Their team was just cooked. They had more of an identity under Tuchel than probably any other manager, by the way. This I agree with. PSG's decision to sack Thomas Tuchel or to let him go because they didn't want to extend his contract for Pochettino, of all people, is one of the most baffling decisions a top European team has made of the last decade. Because no other coach with that team could bring PSG to the Champions League final. And I know their run has been talked about as of late. Was it legitimate? Was it really that impressive considering it was one-legged and considering they didn't play any of the top elite heritage teams? That's another subject entirely. But they nearly beat that Bayern Munich team, right? They were within a Neymar and Mbappe miskick of winning the Champions League under Thomas Tuchel. So for 6 months to fire him after that, it was one of the most ridiculous decisions ever. How do they develop an identity? Yassine, I feel like I kind of touched on that. For me, it's tying into your roots, really getting into your roots and understanding what it means to be a French club, what it means to be Parisian, what it means to be a PSG player, and developing that kind of thing. Once they do that, then it's all about the talent. And for me, PSG has no problem in terms of attracting talent. They have money. They have pull. They play in Paris, for God's sake. That shouldn't be an issue. But it's realizing that that's the direction that they have to go to. Stuart described it perfectly, man. What does it mean to be Parisian? What does it mean to play for PSG? Do any of these players get it? Very few, if at all, understand that. PSG get clowned for not winning the Champions League, but Manchester City doesn't. Well, let me tell you this, right? Manchester City, I think, have made the Champions League semifinal the last 2 years for sure. They went to the final, and for the most part, they have an identity, they have a culture, and they have a damn good team. Manchester City's failings have been down to choking in the last minutes. It's not due to the fact that they're not a good team. Manchester City are one of the best teams in Europe. Over the last 5 years, consistently, if you take it on average, they are probably the best team in Europe. They've won 4 of the last 5 Premier Leagues, or they very well could. They're a damn good team. For me, comparing Paris to Manchester City just because their failings in the Champions League is ridiculous. If you were to choose the last 5 years of both clubs, compare the two of them, Manchester City's are infinitely better. They're infinitely better, and their future looks better. Their present looks better. I don't like that comparison. Hard to develop an identity when they keep changing manager. I agree with that. I do agree with that. Preach, yes, the owners buy whoever they want without consulting the manager. It's true. It's absolutely true. Some of you guys are killing me in this comment section. Jude to PSG. Nah, come on, man. Jude is heading to one place and one place only. Poch and PSG is the worst mix I can think of. I definitely agree on that. Let's speak on Dortmund and Jude. Ash, you actually read my mind. You actually read my mind because Jude Bellingham is the next player I want to speak about. Before I do, let me try this microphone one last time. It's been pissing me off all day. Borussia Dortmund and Jude Bellingham. I think Dortmund won today, did they? Before I go into Jude. Borussia Dortmund. 2-2. Oof. I bunned that. That's just not working. I tried my best, guys. Borussia Dortmund draw today. It's a massive knock on their Bundesliga ambitions. Obviously, following up their Champions League failure, losing to a Chelsea team who, before recently, were in awful form. This guy said, give up on the mic. Hey, I'm going to give up on the mic at Max side. I tried it, but it's not working. We'll address that another time. So Dortmund, for me, are having a decent season, regardless of the last week being an absolute nightmare. For me, when I saw Dortmund in the business they did this year, they bought a lot of players, but it was concerning because already we'd seen Marco Rose at Leipzig. He hadn't really lived up to the hype that he had at Mönchengladbach. It was a lot of new faces in, new faces out. Of course, they lost Erling Haaland, Jadon Sancho from the year before that. So this is definitely a disappointing season, or a disappointing week for them. But it's also a good season for them because I don't think I ever expected them to be going neck and neck with Bayern for the title, especially how good Bayern has been this year. But I want to talk about Jude Bellingham because Jude Bellingham, for me, is a player. Bellingham is being touted as the biggest talent in Europe outside of the Mbappes and Haalands. Bellingham is being touted as that level of player. They're talking about him as the hottest commodity in the sport. Every team wants him. He comes in and changes life for every single midfield in Europe. Who's going to get him? It looks like Liverpool and Real Madrid are the two favorites. I hold the unpopular belief, or maybe it's popular amongst you guys, that I think Jude Bellingham is overrated. But I don't want you guys to take the definition of overrated the way you guys interpret it. I want you guys to take the actual definition of overrated. Overrated does not mean that a player is bad. Overrated does not mean that a player is awful. Overrated does not mean that I think a player will never be good. Overrated simply means that people rate him at a level that is over what his actual level is. That's the literal definition. When you break apart the word for word, bar for bar, that's what overrated means. I think Jude Bellingham has some of the most potential in Europe. I think Jude Bellingham, with his physical and technical qualities, could become the most dominant box-to-box midfielder in Europe for the next 10 years if he puts it all together. But I think Jude Bellingham is overrated because I think people view him as a player that he's absolutely not. And I think they view him as a player that I don't think he ever will be. Jude Bellingham is seen by certain fans as a player that can basically play in all three phases of the game. He dominates entire games on his own. He's a threat from deep. He builds up play from deep. And quite simply, I've never seen him as that kind of player. I was told that, look, England, once they get a player like Jude Bellingham in, he'll solve their midfield problems. But we saw at the World Cup, in midfield, for me, they didn't look any different in terms of controlling games than they did 2 years ago at the Euros when they had Calvin Phillips. Jude Bellingham is a player, guys, that when you look at his best attributes, they all come in the final third. Chance creation, creativity in general. He creates chances for fun. Driving with the ball, carrying it. He's a phenomenal ball carrier. Awareness in the box, goal-scoring instincts. He scores a lot of goals for a midfielder. Strikes from far on goal. He's a terrific ball striker, in my opinion. What I will say about him is that he loves a tackle. He loves getting stuck in. He loves individual duels, whether it's offensively or defensively. That is the sign of a box-to-box midfielder. But everything that I just described to you is all things of a player in the final third, or at the very worst, a box-to-box midfielder. Guys, expecting that Jude Bellingham is going to come to Liverpool and all of a sudden Liverpool are going to start controlling games better and have more control in midfield, for me, is ridiculous. You cannot sign Jude Bellingham for Liverpool's midfield and just expect that to happen. You will need to sign someone to play a little deeper than him alongside Jude Bellingham. I think he's a terrific player. But who does he remind me of, guys? The name I'm probably going to throw at you is, you guys might think is ridiculous. In terms of legends, who he reminds me of is Michael Ballack. In terms of power, in terms of aggression, in terms of ball carrying, in terms of ball striking, in terms of bite in midfield, in terms of popping up a goal in the final third, I'm describing Michael Ballack. I'm describing, and I think he'll be better than this player, I'm describing Aaron Ramsey. These are the kinds of players I'm describing. Final third players that pop up goals. And of course, they can play box to box, but you don't want these guys picking up the ball from their center backs. Let's think of another name. Paul Pogba. Paul Pogba, for me, is one of the most misunderstood, misprofiled players of all time. Forget about his generation, of all time, because I believe that you saw him at Juventus winning games single-handedly for them in the final third, creating chances. The guy's like a chance-creating machine. I'm not comparing him to Bellingham in that regard. Like, they're different players, but he's a player that in the final third, he can create moments of magic. And he came to Manchester United, and they tried turning him into something he's not. They tried playing him as a defensive midfielder, as someone who plays in a double pivot, as someone who's supposed to get the ball off his defenders and start plays from there. I think that could be the biggest mistake that you could do with Pogba, and I think it'll be the biggest mistake you could do with Jude Bellingham. Keep him away from his first phase of midfield. Keep him away from his back line. That's not where you want to see those kinds of players. Lampard, for me, is another great comparison. Great. You don't want to see Frank Lampard picking the ball off his defenders. These are guys with amazing goal-scoring instincts, with amazing chance creation. They create goals for fun. So in that regard, that's why I call Jude Bellingham overrated. And I think you saw in the Chelsea game, that was on full display, both legs, to be honest with you. I thought he had a very poor, for the most part, on average, Champions League round of 16. I think the last 30 minutes against Chelsea in the second leg, he was a lot better. But overall, I didn't think he was that great, to be honest with you. I think Enzo Fernandez, who for me is a first phase player, that would be a mistake playing him in the third phase, in the final third, showed him up in terms of winning a midfield battle. The last 30 minutes, I give you, Jude Bellingham, for me, showed what he's about. But for the most part, I thought Enzo Fernandez showed you what a first phase midfielder looks like. So I'm seeing like examples from Liverpool fans saying Jude Bellingham and Mason Mount and our midfield is fixed. What? They play the same area of the pitch, guys. Who's going to pick up the ball from the center backs and start play? And that's the mistake for me that England as a footballing nation has made the last 20, 30 years. Since Paul Scholes and Michael Carrick, who for me are the last of that kind of midfielder. Maybe Wilshere as well. And you know what? A name that I'm going to throw at you guys, and you guys might think I'm crazy, but a midfielder who plays deep and starts from deep and is a high-volume passer and high-volume toucher of the ball, but obviously wasn't of that quality, is Harry Winks. You guys might think I'm absolutely crazy for throwing his name with the likes of these other guys, but Harry Winks is probably the last midfielder that England has produced that's a high volume passer and a high volume toucher of the ball. Outside of that, all of their other players that they produce are box-to-box midfielders, are high-energy midfielders. They're midfielders that like winning their duels. They're like midfielders that pop up with a goal. That's the kind of midfielders they produce. Guys, I'm not saying Harry Winks is of that quality. Harry Winks has never been good enough for England. Harry Winks will never be good enough for a top-level team. But that profile of midfielder, name me another midfielder in the last 10 years that England have produced. Who? Billy Gilmour is not English. Billy Gilmour is Scottish. Chat, name me a midfielder that England has produced in that role, in that profile. I'll wait. I won't even continue. I'll wait for you guys. The last one was Winks. The one before that was probably Carrick. And Carrick was one that they completely wasted. When you think they played Lampard and Gerrard together in midfield for years, and all they needed was someone behind them to dictate play and do that kind of job for them, to let them do their advanced things, carrying the ball forward. Lingard? No. Lingard's a final third player. Wilshere came before Harry Winks. I'll give you Wilshere, though, as well. Like, he had that potential. Lallana, when Lallana was at his peak, Lallana's only playing 6 now because his legs are gone. Lallana was a 10. I'm waiting for, guys, first phase midfielders. I'm waiting. You guys can't name me one. It's not to big up Harry Winks here, guys. I'm not saying Harry Winks is some phenomenal player, but that's the last profile midfielder in that mold that England have produced. That tells you everything you need to know. James Garner. You know what? That's actually a shout. But again, he's not going to play for England. Is he good enough for England? Absolutely not. So for me, when I see the likes of Jude Bellingham will save England's midfield, or Jude Bellingham will save Liverpool's midfield, not by himself. Hell no, not by himself. What is Jude Bellingham and Declan Rice doing in a midfield against Pedri, Gavi, and Sergio Busquets? What are they doing against Tchouaméni and Paul Pogba? What are they doing against Casemiro? You know what, Brazil, their midfield isn't exceptional either, so I probably won't name them. But that, John Joe Shelby, that's another one. Okay, guys, you're starting to speak my language. My point is none of these players are good enough. They produce these players, but they never reach the levels of an England international. But that's basically my point. Declan Rice. Declan Rice is not in that mold either. Calvin Phillips, maybe, but even he, to an extent, he's still your hard tackling. He loves getting involved in his duels. I wouldn't even consider him that, but he's the closest thing, maybe. That's why, for me, Jude Bellingham, as great as he is, and as good as I think he will be, I think Jude Bellingham has the potential to be the best box-to-box midfielder in the world. I think he has that potential, again, but because of his physical traits and his technical ability. But that's Spain. England and Liverpool need players like Pedri for me. They need players like Gavi for me. They need players like Tchouaméni, like Camavinga. And then they're the base of your house. Then you can have players like Jude who play a little more advanced. Then you can have players like Musiala also who plays a little more advanced. But as long as Jude Bellingham's and Declan Rice's and these kinds of players are the premier midfielders that you're producing, England will always struggle at international tournaments to control games, to break down midfields, and to start attacks from deep, to sustain possession. They'll always struggle to do that. No, RLC is not a shout. RLC, I think, is in terms of profile, I think is brilliant. He could have been absolutely exceptional. But RLC is box-to-box too, guys. RLC's best attribute is carrying the ball forward. I'm talking about high-volume passers, high-volume touchers of the ball. I don't think they exist in England, or at least they're not producing them. So Bellingham, as great as I think he is, I think you're always capped if that's the only midfielder you're bringing in. Liverpool, for me, need a deep-lying playmaker alongside Jude Bellingham. And I think most Liverpool fans would admit that. Fabinho is cooked, and Bajcetic, if that's how you pronounce your name, I think has something about him, but he's definitely not ready. In England, Jude Bellingham on his own, I've always said it, will not solve England's midfield problems. You need to produce someone else. But that's my take on him. I know people think I'm a hater of Jude Bellingham. Absolutely not. I think I ranked Jude Bellingham 6th or 7th in my best under 23 players in the world. That's pretty impressive, bro. The only guys I had above him, Haaland, Vinicius, Pedri, Tchouaméni. I'm talking about the best players in the world. So I rate Bellingham very highly. But you're always capped for me in terms of that kind of midfielder. And I think he as well will need to develop that side of his game. And here's the other thing. The guy's, 18, 19 years old? I'm not saying he will never, ever reach that level. But right now, for what he is, I think people are going overboard. I think there's better players out there. I think there's better players in his age group out there. Will he be great? Absolutely. But let's hold the horses off on Bellingham. Let's back it off a little bit. He's brilliant, but he's not there yet. And I think everyone is understanding that. But I think the more people watch him, the more they start to understand what kind of player he is. Lolo says Musiala or Jude. I take Musiala. I think Musiala is the better player. I don't know who has more potential, but I prefer Jamal Musiala. I'll tell you this, guys. If I were to name you my favorite 5 players in the world right now at this moment, not based on the last 5 years, I think Musiala cracks my top 5. I think Musiala is one of my 5 favorite players in the world right now. I'm addicted to watching this guy play. I love watching him pick up the ball and drive at defenses with intensity. That's one of my favorite traits in a footballer. Intensity in the way they dribble, directness and intent. Intensity and intent. Always wanting to go forward, always wanting to attack at defenders. I absolutely love seeing that in footballers. It's the reason why I love Kvaratskhelia, because he's direct. I love Musiala because he's direct. A player I really like that, to be honest, isn't that great, but I think I love watching him play, Emile Smith-Rowe. I love seeing players that have directness in the way they run. And I'm not comparing Smith-Rowe to Musiala. I think Musiala is the better talent, obviously. But that's the kind of players I like to watch. And it's also why, if you guys have noticed, I'm not a huge fan of Antony, because I think he makes life way too complicated for himself. I like players who, they know what they want, they know they want to go towards goal, and their main objective is just drive towards goal. I love players like that. And Musiala right now, for me, is absolutely stunning watching him play, bro. Watching this guy run at defenses, and it's not just like P&P, right? That's the thing with Musiala. His technical ability is absolutely brilliant. It's hard to believe, in fact, that that's a player that England produced, because he plays like a French player. He plays like a Spaniard. He doesn't play like an English player, to be honest with you. The pausa that he has, the directness that he has, the technical ability, the dribbling that he has to weave in and out of defenses is absolutely world class. I think the one thing about him is that he has to add that end product to his game. And I think he's had a decent return in front of goal this year. But I've seen too many instances where he weaves through 3-4 players, even in the World Cup the other day, I think against Wolfsburg, where he gets in front of goal and he fluffs his lines. But once he gets that in his game, bro, Musiala is sensational, man. I think bar the Haaland, Vinny, and Mbappe big three, or Vinny, Haaland, Mbappe, and of course Pedri, that big 4, I think Musiala is the best youngster in the world. I might have put Tchouaméni above him, but I would probably amend that. I would say Musiala is 4th or 5th. And for me, when I talk about my favorite players in the world, I think Musiala has entered those discussions. Obviously, I'm always going to love Mahrez. I'm always going to love Rashford. I'm always going to love Messi. But Messi and Mahrez, for me, are in the past. Those are players that are on the decline. It's more sentiment for me. But players that, if I had to watch right now, 5 players who I choose to watch over anyone, Musiala is in my top 5, and he's high in my top 5, man. And if you haven't seen enough of him, I highly recommend. And I urge you to watch more Bayern Munich. I urge you to watch more Germany. The kid is a gem. We'll look at some more of these comments. Ball, yes, Emile Smith-Rowe is a baller. I've always liked Smith-Rowe, to be honest. I think right now his health is, his health is really holding him back in terms of his availability. But I think when he plays, he's someone that as a neutral, I love watching him play, man. I love watching him run at defenses. Musiala is the best under 23 in Europe right now, no debate. But if there was, who would it be? Natty boy, I find it very hard to say anyone bar Haaland, Pedri, and Vinny. I wouldn't say Musiala is better than those 3. I think Haaland has 28 goals in the league, unless he scored another one tonight. I know he had one at the time that I checked it. So I wouldn't say he's better than Haaland. He's probably a better footballer than Haaland. But if you choose Haaland or Musiala, it has to be Haaland every single day. Pedri, for me, is the best midfielder in the world, even at 19 years old. So that's out of the question. And Vinicius, he's not better than Vinicius. But outside of those 3, in terms of under 23 players, Musiala is king, man. He's king. He's absolutely brilliant. Liverpool won't get top 4, and Jude will not probably go to Madrid. No comment. No comment. I said enough about Liverpool today. No comment. England produced Musiala. I believe they did, right? Isn't he from Chelsea's academy? Let me know, chat. I'm almost positive that Musiala is an England product that eventually just moved to Bayern at like 15, 16 years old. But correct me if I'm wrong. What else we got? Germany will be hard to beat with Wirtz. Musiala. Oh, Wirtz is another one who's absolutely brilliant. I know the last year or so hasn't been kind to him with injuries, but guys, if this guy comes back the same player he was before, that's another one you guys have to keep an eye out for. Florian Wirtz is brilliant. I've been getting cooked for saying I don't want Jude at City. Is that a bad show? I don't think so, AMH. I really don't think so, because you have to think, where does he fit in? Of course, and in terms of talent, you get him, because you don't pass up on that kind of talent. If Jude Bellingham is available and your club can sign him, you sign him. But where would he fit in at City? Maybe as that ball carrier that De Bruyne offers, but he doesn't have the final ball that De Bruyne offers. Like going from De Bruyne to Jude Bellingham is a massive downgrade, even if you think Jude Bellingham will be world class. Bellingham will never have a final ball like Kevin De Bruyne. So in terms of ball carrying, in terms of intensity, in terms of athleticism, okay, it's a good swap. But you're massively giving up that final ball, that cross on De Bruyne that he has from that right-hand side by replacing him with Jude Bellingham. That's a massive downgrade in chance creation. He maybe helps you more with central chance creation, but in terms of that cross that De Bruyne has, which I always say is like 1 in 3 times as a goal, it's a massive downgrade. It's a massive, massive downgrade. Would you take Nuno Mendes at United? Absolutely. Absolutely. Level football is so low right now when there isn't many profiles like that. That's a subject for another day, to be honest with you. Watching Bayern feels like a chore. I don't know how it is now. They playing good football? I think so. I actually would say, Daniel, that this is probably one of the most entertaining Bayern teams I've seen in the last few years, to be honest with you. Because I think the Ancelotti era, none of them wanted to play under him. Let's be real. Who was the guy who came after him? Kovac. Niko Kovac. That was awful. Let's be real. Hansi Flick Bayern was addicting to watch, though. That I'm not having it. Hansi Flick Bayern was like watching a FIFA team, to be honest with you. It looked like they were cracked out. It genuinely looked like they were cracked out the way they were playing. The intensity and speed that they played at, the high line that they played at, it was like, the way I called it was kamikaze football. It was catch-22 football with Hansi Flick's Bayern. Because you had a team that was basically parked at the halfway line. Their defense was at the halfway line whenever they played. And it was a catch-22. And if you guys don't know the expression, a catch-22 is like, how do I describe it? A catch-22 is something that like, it either works or it doesn't work. I think that's like a very vague description of it, but it's like you either live or die by the sword. That's what a catch-22 is. So the catch-22 was they pressed you so high in your own half that the minute they lost the ball, they were so high in your half that they won it back in seconds. It was unbelievable how good their press was because, again, they were parked at halfway line. But the catch-22 of that was that if you had someone that could hit you on the counterattack with immense speed and you had someone that could find them with a ball over the top, it was a one-on-one almost every single time. The prime example was PSG when they beat them in the Champions League in 2020-21. I think that's the season. That was the prime example because you had Neymar with a final ball and you had Kylian Mbappe parked at halfway line. And every single time Neymar sent Mbappe through, it was 1v1 and Mbappe punished them. Even in the 8-2 against Barca, to be honest with you, it was similar to that. Because again, they won 8-2, but if you guys watch that game back, the first half, guys, Barca could have scored 3-4 goals. They absolutely could have because the amount of chances and clear-cut chances that Bayern would concede under Hansi Flick. But they were so addicting to watch because, again, you talk about neutral football and you talk about just wanting to be entertained. These guys were the kings of entertainers, bro. They just wanted to outscore you. They didn't care how many they conceded. We're just going to score more goals than you. Lewandowski was on fire those days. Of course, you had Gnabry, who I think was at the peak of his powers. I don't think he's at those levels anymore, but Gnabry for a few years really fulfilled his potential. You had Kimmich and Thiago in midfield. That was a joy to watch in midfield. Thiago had that Champions League final masterclass. They were a joy to watch. So that Bayern team was so fun. But Nagelsmann this year, I think, has really had them balling, man. I mean, you look at the attacking fullbacks. Shout out to Cam. Cancelo and Davies on either side. I know Cancelo has been in and out of the team, but Cancelo, when he's on it, bro, is a joke of an attacking fullback. Mixed with Davies, who I think is one of the most underrated players in the world. Those two are incredible. You look at the center back pairing of Upamecano and Matthijs de Ligt. Upamecano, I've always said this, guys. You can go back and check my old tweets. Upamecano is one of the most underrated center backs in Europe by a mile. And it's because people choose to only see his flaws. People only choose to see that, okay, he's a kind of flat-footed defender in terms of on the half turn, when a ball goes in behind him, he's not the best at recovering and turning. He's a bit sluggish in that regard. But I challenge you to find more than 3 center backs better at passing a football and better with the ball at their feet than Dayot Upamecano. I would say the only one that can chat to him, for me, is Lisandro Martinez and Aymeric Laporte. Outside of those two, I don't think there's a better ball-playing center back in Europe than Dayot Upamecano. And outside of that, he's definitely improved as a leader. I was reading the other day, or someone tweeted at me, I think it's Euro Scout, shout out to him, telling me that Dayot Upamecano is taking lessons in terms of improving his vocal cords, in terms of being more of a vocal presence on the pitch, in terms of being a leader. I thought he was brilliant in the World Cup, even though people were saying he should be dropped for Konate. And I think he's been absolutely brilliant for Bayern. He absolutely locked up Mbappe and Messi in the Champions League. And next to him is De Ligt, another guy who's been massively criticized the last few years. He never really took off once he left Ajax. But this year, that partnership between the two of them is one of the best in Europe, man. De Ligt is a top player. And again, another natural leader. De Ligt was a captain of Ajax at 18, 19 years old. So those two I've been really impressed with. Midfield for me with Bayern, I'm always shaky, to be honest with you. I've never been a Goretzka fan. Kimmich, I think, is good, but he's good. He's very good, but I've never been fully sold on him as an elite level player. He's been better this season. And that attack, I know Choupo-Moting is not your star-studded striker, but around him, the attacking options that Bayern can surround him with and create clear-cut chances that even he can't miss. Bayern are a sleeper for me in the Champions League this year. I might go do a full episode on them and link me Bayern fans to speak to get on this channel, and we'll speak to them and get more of an in-depth analysis on them. But I think Bayern are a real dangerous threat in the Champions League. I know we went to the season with a lot of people not expecting them to be, but they have been absolutely irresistible. They destroyed Barca in the group stage. They've now beaten PSG, and I don't think any team wants to see them. I think defensively they're strong, and I think going forward they're even better. So that's my thoughts on Bayern. That was kind of a mini tangent, but hope you guys enjoyed that. Kvaratskhelia is also up there. Sadio or Mahrez? Peak Mane. Even me as a Mahrez fan, I'll say Sadio Mane at his peak is disgusting. Is absolutely disgusting. Yeah, mods, do your jobs, right? If you guys also want to be a mod, let me know. DM me on Twitter, and I'll make you guys a mod. But you guys got to be on job. No spamming. That's basically my one rule. No spamming. Don't be inappropriate, and you guys can chill in here. Thiago at Bayern, absolutely brilliant. Leao or Saka? Saka. Although Leao has crazy potential. I'm a big fan of Leao. What do you think of Rodrigo? I feel like Madrid should buy a right winger, swap to a 4-2-3-1, and play him as a 10. He's so good technically. I think Rodrigo, I was always uncertain about him, to be honest with you, because he seems like a very unorthodox player in the way he dribbles. But I also think it's because he's been playing the wrong position. I don't think he's a right winger. I think he's very good at playing right wing, but I think his best position comes as a left winger, which obviously is Vinny's place, or potentially, as you've said, even a 10, even a false 9. I think Rodrigo is one of the most intelligent players for his age group in all of Europe. I think his decision-making is exceptional. His runs are very intelligent. His footballing IQ is off the charts. And technically, I think he's a lot better technically than anyone gave him credit for. I think technically, he's the real deal. So Rodrigo, while I know Vinny has gotten all of the attention the last few years at Real Madrid, and rightfully so, the kid is a superstar. Rodrigo is brilliant. Rodrigo is absolutely brilliant. And I see all these rumors to Mbappe, to all these attacking talents, Kvaratskhelia. But in Rodrigo and Vinicius, you have two of the best youngsters on the planet. I wouldn't be in any rush to replace either of them. That's just my take on it. But then they have the sweeper keeper. That's another good point, Ben. Neuer was basically the ultimate get-out-of-jail card. The minute Boateng, who is flat-footed a bit, and I think it was Alaba, would be beaten at the halfway line, you have Neuer, bro. And as someone who saw Algeria versus Germany in 2014, I know all about Neuer and his sweeper keeper actions. But regardless, they did get caught out a lot. But that was part of the fun of it. And that was actually my one criticism of Germany going into the World Cup, my one worry. I went to go watch England versus Germany at Wembley. Shout out FPTBL. They sent me and Cecil. And I saw the same problem with them. They were like Bayern Munich. They were like Hansi Flick's Bayern Munich, a team that played so high up that tried suffocating them, but they didn't have the players like Bayern did. So instead of, let's say, Lewandowski, they have Timo Werner. Instead of Thiago, they have, who was playing in midfield for them at the time? I can't even remember. Instead of Jerome Boateng and Alaba, they had Niklas Sule and Schlotterbeck. They didn't have the talent that Bayern Munich did. That's the difference between international football and club football, and why I think international football is very underrated. Because international football, to win with an international team where you don't have control of your coach, you don't have control over your teammates, you can't just buy players to basically plug holes in your team. You're just basically dealt the cards that you're dealt with. So that's why for me, I always have massive respect for anyone who can win at international tournaments, because the odds are not in your favor. You just have to deal with the cards you're dealt with. But that was the problem with Germany. Hansi Flick was trying to play the way he did at Bayern, where he had full control of the players he had. He had the best players in the world. He was trying to play that way with a Germany team that doesn't have the talent of Bayern Munich. That was always my one issue of Germany, and why I didn't think they would do that great at the World Cup. I didn't think they'd flop out the group stage, but that was my biggest issue with them. And it was something they definitely didn't address. And that's why for me, Hansi Flick, I think he's one of the best managers in Europe. I think if he's available, your team should go after him. But I don't think he's cocky, but I think he's naive. I think that's the word I would use for Hansi Flick. I think he's a naive manager in terms of he believes so strongly in his ideology and his style of play, but at some point you have to respect your opponent. Against PSG, for example, you have to respect the fact that Mbappe is the fastest player on the planet, the most devastating counterattacking threat in Europe, and push your defensive line 10 yards, 20 yards deeper. And I think that's the issue of Hansi Flick. I think either he's naive, either he's stubborn. I don't want to say cocky because I don't know him like that. I don't know him personally, so I won't attack him personally. But I think that's something he needs to adapt in his footballing style of play. Being a little more respectful to your opposition, because players will hurt you out there. Your setup, your system is not immortal. It's not foolproof. There will always be solutions to it. I'll read a few more of yours, and I think we might do one last section as well, 10 minutes or 5 minutes of start, sub, sell. We might do that at the end if you guys are interested in that. Stones is also a great ball-playing center back. Gvardiol is also, but Gvardiol maybe, but guys, I think Upamecano is just as good as these guys playing with the ball at his feet. That might be a hot take. I think Upamecano is just as good as these guys. Like with the ball at his feet. Defensively, Gvardiol is top. John Stones is top. But with the ball at his feet, what do these guys do better than Upamecano? Upamecano's World Cup final performance is amazing. I thought he had a great World Cup period, man. Again, people focus on the flaws so much that they just ignore what he brings as a footballer. And I think that's a huge mistake. I think the biggest problem with footballing dialogue and footballing conversation in today's game is that people would rather compare in a negative way rather than just appreciate what you're watching. It's always, is he better than this guy? Is he any good? Can he play? Like, just appreciate what you're watching. Upamecano is a terrific player. Every player has flaws, and so does he. But it's important to look past those flaws and see what he can bring to your football club. And I think he brings a hell of a lot. Bastoni, that's a shout. That's definitely a very good shout. Who do you think Milan get as their new striker? Why do I hear that? No, I don't see him getting Ronaldo. I don't know who they get, but it won't be Ronaldo. Maybe we do start, sub, sell, guys, because you guys left a lot of comments. When I be reading this, when I be on my monologues and stuff like that, I don't be reading the comments, and then I'm left with like 30 to go through. Wrote the 30K. I saw that somewhere. Lias, does Canada have a professional league? It's not like first division. It's not great. Canadian football is getting a lot better, but it's got a ways to go. But I will say the 2026 World Cup, that'll be massive in terms of developing football in Canada. And hopefully you guys will see me working there. We hope. Run up the legs, people. What's the legs at right now, mods? Let me know. Let me check real quick. What is the legs saying right now? Let me check real quick. Oh, shit. Likes are at 156. Let's get it to 200, guys. 200. If you guys get the likes to 200, we'll do start, sub, sell. Lias, why did Carrick never play for England? Guys, I'll repeat that one more time before I answer this question. If you guys want to do start, sub, sell, 200 likes. Hit it. Lias, why did Carrick never play for England? I think, again, it's England's obsession with athletic, hard, rugged, tough tackling midfielders who score goals and are in your face. Michael Carrick is a player that was born in the wrong country, because if he was in Spain, he would have been appreciated more. If he was in Germany, he would have been appreciated more. France appreciated more. Michael Carrick, for me, you guys know the J. Cole line? It's like Pac was like Jesus, Nas wrote the Bible. Carrick was like Jesus, Busquets wrote the Bible. Carrick was Busquets, obviously not as good as Busquets, but he was Busquets before Busquets. And of course, Busquets took that to another level. But Carrick, in front of, imagine this guy's as a midfield three. When you think now of like how midfield threes are made in terms of 1-6 and 2-8s, or 1-6, 1-8, and 1-10. Imagine a midfield three of Michael Carrick, Frank Lampard, and Steven Gerrard. Or Michael Carrick, Paul Scholes, and Steven Gerrard. And Michael Carrick, Paul Scholes, Frank Lampard. Or Michael Carrick, Steven Gerrard, Joe Cole. Those are all much more balanced midfields than what England went for. And here's another thing too. England, for the longest time, were stuck in this mindset of 4-4-2 is the only way to play. And it killed the way they built their entire team, to be honest with you. Because David Beckham had to play. He was the captain, but he plays as a right midfielder. He's not playing on the wing. He's not playing in central midfield, at least not to that point. He plays on the right. He has to be in the team. You want to play the two up front, Wayne Rooney and Michael Owen. So you have to play a two up front. Problem was they never had a left midfielder on the other side to complement Beckham. They never had someone. Walcott was a right winger. Lennon mostly did his work on the right. They tried playing Joe Cole out there at times, but Joe Cole was a number 10, bro. He's not a left midfielder. So you were basically trying to shoehorn all your best players into this one formation. And that's why you never had ultimately a natural sitter. You never had room for Paul Scholes, another guy who they forced out left to get the best out of Beckham, to get the best playing Gerrard and Lampard together. That's for me England's biggest crime, because bro, the midfield potential that they could have had by playing a guy like Carrick next to those midfielders, they would have had one of the best midfielders in the league, in the world, one of the best midfield threes in the world. That's heartbreaking in my opinion. Yes, okay, sent you a DM on Twitter. Okay, I'll add you up, Dennis, for sure. What else we got? Obsession with 442. Yep. All right, before I start sell, let's start subsell. Let's see what the likes are at. Yeah. 183. 200. 17 more likes, guys. Like that shit up. In the meantime, let's see if you guys had any other ones. What would be your starting 11 for England? Ramsdale. I'd go Ramsdale. I'd go Luke Shaw. I'd go John Stones. I'd go Ben White. This is going forward, right? Not in the past. In the past, I would have said Maguire, to be honest with you. No matter what you think of Maguire, I think for England, Maguire would have been it. But going forward, I think you got to go Ben White. I'd go Reece James, bro. But then Reece James is better as a wingback, to be honest with you. But then Trent, I always feel that Trent needs someone in front of him who can kind of do that job of dropping deep. So if you play Trent, you need someone in front of him. That probably sacrifices the midfield role. I'd go Reece James. I'd go Reece James at right back because I think Reece James needs less around him to succeed. Trent has the higher ceiling in terms of if you get the entire setup right, you'd rather have Trent Alexander-Arnold. But I think Reece James is easier to get in your team. He's less high maintenance, if that makes sense. The potential is there with Trent. The ceiling of your team is higher with Trent, but the base is higher with Reece James, if that makes sense. So I go Reece James at right back. We were saying Tomori. I think Tomori is a good shout too. Tomori or Ben White, but they have to play next to John Stones. Midfield. This is where it's tough. I go Declan Rice. I go Declan Rice at the base. I go Jude Bellingham on one side. I go Phil Foden on the other side. That's what I go for. That's my midfield three. And that's where you kind of run into the problem where I said earlier, you don't have that midfielder who progresses play from deep. But that's what England has. So I would go those three. I'd go Rice, I'd go Bellingham, I'd go Foden. On the left, I'd go Rashford. On the right, I'd go Bukayo Saka. Oh, but then you got Sterling. Where does Sterling play? Does Sterling play? I wouldn't play Foden as an 8. I would play Foden as a 10. I would play 6, 8, and 10. I wouldn't play Foden as an 8. I'd play Foden as a 10. I want to play Sterling because I think Sterling is England's most consistent player for the most part. But I think, again, I'm going forward with this. I'm looking at the next Euros. Who do I want playing for England? I think Sterling is starting to come to an end. And for that reason, I would go Rashford on the left, Kane in the middle, and Saka on the right. That would be my England team. Let me know what you guys think. That's a decent team, right? I'd love to get Grealish in, but I think Rashford on the left is probably more of an incisive threat, especially playing next to Kane. I think Rashford suits him more. I'd love to get Calvin Phillips in, but I don't think he's better than any of the midfielders I named. All right, what are we at right now? 192 likes, 8 likes to do start sell. I'm pushing you for this. And guys, make sure you guys are subscribing, hitting the like button, sharing this with all your friends. We've had around like 350 or so people in the stream the entire time, which for me is great, right? We're just getting started with this, so I definitely appreciate that. But yo, if you guys got any friends who are interested in European football, share this with them. Tell them this is the place to be. Tell them FTBL in general is the place to be, guys. We got crazy content coming up. We got another FTBL culture coming next week. Me and Cam, we're doing another one of those sit-down shows. So let me know as well, what kind of topics do you guys want to see us talk about for that? Did we hit it? 200. 200 exactly. Start, sell. Send them in. I'll do 5 to 10 minutes worth of them. Hi, brother. Just joined the stream. Love your content. Mahir, thank you so much, bro. Appreciate that. Appreciate that, bro. When are you and Cam's on match of the day? What I will tell you, and I won't disclose the information, but me and Cam got something very, very, very big coming up. You won't get anything more out of me than that. But we got something very, very big coming up. It's not match of the day. It might be bigger. That's all I'll say. Uncle Sharma, my boy, Inter Porto predictions. Inter are winning, bro. Inter are winning. You heard it here first. Even though I'm hearing Inzaghi might get fired. I don't know if that's going to destabilize the team. I wouldn't fire him yet. Definitely not. But I think Inter beats Porto. Okay, let's do starts up so. Konate, Upamecano, Lisandro. Oh my God, that's a tough one. That's a tough one to start, guys. I like all three of them. All three of them are three of my favorite center backs in the world. Also, guys, when you're doing them, disclose whether it's current or whether it's overall. Because this season, I would say Lisandro, Upamecano, Konate in terms of my order this season. But overall, I would say Konate is the best. Because I think he has everything to his game. Secondly, I would go... Oh, it's tough, man, because I love Lisandro. I would go Lisandro second. I would go Upamecano third. I think all three of them at their best, that's the order I would go for. But currently this season, I think it's start... Who did I say? Start Lisandro. Excuse me. Bench Upamecano. Sell Konate this season. Starts up sell Aguero, Zlatan, Fernando Torres, overall career, and give me a prime only version. Okay, overall career. Start Zlatan, bench Aguero, sell Fernando Torres. Yeah, I would go that. I would go that. Because as bad as Zlatan was in the Champions League, Aguero was not much better. Prime version only, though. What is Aguero's prime? What's Aguero's best ever season? 2018-19 maybe? In terms of like overall player? I would still go start Zlatan, bench Aguero, sell Fernando Torres. I would still go that. I think Aguero and Zlatan are debatable, but I would go Zlatan just because, bro, that season at PSG when he scored 50, he was as complete a forward as you can get. That's one of the best striking primes I've ever seen in my life. Let's go through a few of them. I don't want to do like the same like boring ones either, like Ronaldo, Messi, Neymar. Let's be real here. Hamsik, Vidal, Gundogan, Bastian. I like that. These are the kind of send me niche ones like this, guys. These ones make me start to think. Hamsik, Vidal, Gundogan. I would start I would start Gundogan. Gundogan, I think, is one of the most underrated midfielders of his generation. I would start Gundogan. I would bench Vidal. And I would sell Hamsik. But Hamsik as well, guys, right? From the start, like back in Lavezzi, Hamsik, Cavani days, has been a baller. Hamsik is a Napoli legend, Serie A legend. But I think the other two have too much European pedigree for me to put Hamsik over them. What else do we got? Chupo Lukaku Kane. No, don't do that, man. Don't do that. I like Lukaku. Kane, Lukaku, Choupo-Moting. Don't do that, bro. Starts of sell Hazard, Di Maria, Salah. Is this prime? I'm gonna go back to that one. Neil, let me know if this is prime or it's got to be prime because it's not overall. Overall, it's prime Salah, Di Maria, Hazard. I'll do prime and career for this one. Prime, it's start Hazard, bench Salah, sell Di Maria. Career, start Di Maria, bench Salah, sell Hazard. That's my order. That might be spooky for you guys, but I think Hazard is the best footballer out of the three. Like, if I had to choose a player to save my life at their very best out of those three, it's Hazard. I hear these things of, oh, Salah has overpassed Salah, or he's overpassed Hazard. I don't think so. In terms of actually being a footballer, in terms of at their best, who's better? Salah is not better than Hazard for me. But what they've gone on to achieve, how long they've ended up doing it for, the consistency of their peak, Salah has surpassed Hazard in that regard. But Salah, for me, will never be a better footballer than Hazard. That's as simple as that. Like, I hear a lot of times, like, what does player A have to do to surpass player B? He has to be better than him. He has to be better at the sport than them. And I don't think he is. Unless he replicated 2017-18, 5 years in his career, maybe. But that's the way I look at football, to be honest with you. I don't understand this, like, oh, if a player does it for 10 years versus a player who does it for 5, who's better? Well, if the player who did it for 5 years was better than the player who did it for 10 years, I take that player. That's the way I view things. But Di Maria, sorry to run off track, but Di Maria at his best and his career that he's had, I think he's severely underestimated in these kinds of debates. The guy's won everything. He's showed up in finals. He's played in different roles. In fact, me saying sell Di Maria in terms of prime, that might be harsh for some people. They might say, I'm taking Di Maria over Salah. That's another conversation. But for me, Hazard is the best of the three. Sir Alex, Pep, Jose, prime and career. Start Sir Alex, bench Pep, sell Jose. Although I love Jose so much. I prefer Jose to Pep, but Pep is a better manager, did more, did it for longer, has changed the game more, he's influenced the game more than Jose. And Sir Alex is my GOAT. Sir Alex is my GOAT. Start, sub, sell. Let's see, ones I didn't do last week. You should do a show reacting to European competitions next week, predicting who wins champion. We will. And we'll probably get Rabona TV back on for that one, Caleb. We'll definitely do that. Good show. Enzo, Jude, Gavi. Right now, I'll do it for now and for potential. Potential-wise, start Jude, bench Enzo, sell Gavi. For right now, start Enzo, bench Jude, sell Gavi. That's my order. Iniesta, Modric, Xavi. Guys, I think Xavi and Iniesta combined together are Modric. Nah, the amount of heat that I took for Cam for that. Come on, bro. They were killing me. I wasn't even driving the car, guys. Shit was crazy. Start Iniesta, bench Xavi, sell Modric. And I love all three of them. And I don't think it's a crime to compare any of the three before Barca fans say, oh, it's a ridiculous comparison. Those are three of the best midfielders I've ever seen in my life. But if I have to choose based off preference, because guys, when you talk about the all-time players, the finest of margins are ultimately decided by just personal preference. And for me, the personal preference is Iniesta is a genius. The guy's a genius. I always said Iniesta for me over Xavi because I think Iniesta can do what Xavi can do, but I don't think Xavi can do what Iniesta does. I say that in terms of Iniesta for me can drop deep and control games and dictate play and register 150 passes just like Xavi can. Xavi does it at a higher level, of course, but Iniesta can still do it at a high level. But Iniesta in the final third, in terms of chance creation, in terms of the way he dribbles past players and glides and creates space for opposition, I think he did that better than Xavi. And for that reason, Iniesta might be the best midfielder of all time, period. Modric is brilliant as well. And I get what Ken was saying when he says, for me, Modric is the attributes of Xavi, not at that level, but he has those attributes, and the attributes of Iniesta, again, not at that level, but he has them, and you mix them together, that's Modric. I hear what he's saying, but again, it goes back to the point of, like, I don't care that Modric is doing it at a different age that Iniesta did. The best version of Iniesta and the best version of Modric. I think Iniesta is the better footballer. For me, that's as simple as the way I view football. Longevity comes into effect, of course. But Iniesta was a better footballer than Modric. Doesn't matter if Modric does it for 10 years. If he didn't do it as well as Iniesta, it doesn't matter to me. Although Modric, for me, as well, exceptional. I can't speak highly enough of him. Do you follow Asian football? Are you aware of how big football is in South Asia? I don't personally, although I always say that I believe watching the Asian teams in the World Cup, the level of football in that continent is rapidly increasing. Now, South Asian, of course, I think South Asian is more like Bangladesh. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not trying to be completely ignorant here, but I believe that's like more so the region, right? Those countries down there. That I'm not completely familiar, although I see like Hamza Chowdhury, I think is from Bangladesh, I believe so, or of Bangladesh origin. Zidane Iqbal. So I think you're obviously seeing an increase in quality. I don't want to speak on something I'm not educated on, but I definitely see that it is growing. You are seeing players in the top 5 leagues. You are seeing these countries go to international tournaments and show you something. Japan at the last World Cup, I thought were irresistible, unlucky to go out on penalties. So yeah, big up Asian football. I don't follow it enough, but I'm definitely happy to see it thriving if it is. We'll do 5 more. Eto'o, Drogba, Salah. Oh. Ay. Start Eto'o. Eto'o's the greatest African footballer of all time. Start Eto'o. Happy late birthday to him as well. Thank you for retweeting my comp all those years ago. Start Eto'o. I prefer Drogba, and it kills me to say this. Yeah, you guys love saying I'm a hater, but I'm gonna be honest here. Start Eto, bench Salah, sell Drogba. Although I prefer Drogba. I probably prefer Drogba to all three of them. But I think in terms of quality, in terms of the best, I think it's that three. We'll do a few more. 4 more. Belhaj, Gulam, or Ben Sebaini? Start Gulam by far. Fauzi, Gulam at his peak. Ben, I like you. Ben, the streets Arfa, I like you. Gulam at his peak for sure. Start. Bench Ben Sebaini, sell Belhaj. Belhaj, I remember him at Portsmouth, but he's not at the level of the other two. Gulam, though, we were robbed of, for me, a top elite level left back. I truly believe that if Gulam had stayed fit, bro, he would have been playing for Liverpool or Real Madrid. He was that good. Gulam was unbelievable. Unbelievable. 3 more. Oof. Uncle Sharma, why you gotta do me like that, bro? Totti, Guti, Ozil. I'll do prime and career. Guti is bottom for both. Guti for me is streets won't forget. Guti is a joy to watch, but he doesn't stack up to the other guys in terms of careers, legacies, peaks. He's just a streets footballer. Guti is, for me, someone that like you just love watching him play, but he's not an all-timer footballer in my opinion, or he's not an all-timer player. He's an all-timer talent maybe. So he's bottom for both. I think it's Ozil. Start Ozil, bench Totti, sell Guti. I think the peak that Ozil reached was higher than Totti. But career-wise, you know what's crazy, right? Guys, this is a fun fact for you. Correct me if I'm wrong, especially you, Uncle Sharma. I believe Ozil and Totti have won the same amount of league titles in their career. 1. They've won the same amount of Champions Leagues, 0, and the same amount of World Cups, 1. So in terms of achievements, they've achieved the same things. I know Ozil has, I think, achieved more individual awards. But in terms of team awards, they've achieved the same thing. And Totti has played for worse teams than Ozil did. But I will edge it to Ozil because I look at their impact at the national team level. Totti, for me, was always very disappointing at the international team level. Agree with me or not, Uncle Sharma. I think Totti was always a step below his Roma level when he put on an Italian kit. And for that reason, I think of Ozil in Germany 2014, even Germany 2010 World Cup. Outstanding. Totti in the 2006 World Cup was not that great. That was not his best international tournament. I would say 2000 was. So for that reason, I would go Ozil. Ozil, start, bench Totti, sell Guti. But those are 3 of my favorite players ever. Absolutely love them. I think we'll do 2 more. Ben, I could answer all of your questions if I could, bro. I love comparisons like this. I'm going to do this one and still do 2 just for you guys because I have to answer this one. Gattuso, Nainggolan, and Van Bommel. Ooh. Start Gennaro. I start Gennaro. I love this one, bro. They're all just shit houses, bro. Start Gennaro, Gattuso. Overall career, you bench Van Bommel, you sell Nainggolan. But as players, in terms of like actual like ability, I probably bench Nainggolan, sell Van Bommel. I don't know if that's a hot take. Yeah, but in terms of career, Van Bommel had a great career. Captained the Dutch to 2010 World Cup final. 2 more. Y'all want to add stress to my head or something like that. You guys want my hairline to be going all the way back. Fun fact for you guys. Claudio Marchisio is one of my favorite players ever. When I was a kid, right, I looked up to a few midfielders because midfield was my position. Fabregas was my favorite player as a kid. Messi later on, right? Messi is my favorite player ever, but I could never be Messi. There's no way I could ever watch Messi and hope to replicate what he does on a football pitch. Obviously, I never replicated what Fabregas did either, but like that style of player was a lot more achievable for someone like me. Fabregas was my favorite player. Later on, it became Van der Vaart. Schneider as well, I loved. Nasri, I loved. Marchisio, bro. Marchisio was the player I looked at and is like, I could be Marchisio. High energy midfielder, high volume passer, shoot from deep. That was my kind of midfielder, bro. All action number 8. Marchisio was one of my favorite players ever. Carrick, though, I also love. I've always said he's one of the most underappreciated players of his generation. And De Rossi was a boss, bro. De Rossi was just a G. That guy was unbelievable. We'll do overall, and then we'll do peak as well. Overall, like career-wise, I think you start De Rossi, you bench Carrick, and you sell Marquisio. And then for peak, I think it's arguably the same ranking, guys. As much as I just waxed lyrical about Marquisio, I think it's arguably the same ranking. But Marquisio, if you guys watched the episode of FTBL Culture I did with Cam about best Ancelotti team ever, and I talked about Seedorf, and he played the balancer role, the third man midfielder out of like the destroyer / DLP, and the number 10 creator in chief. That number 8, the all action midfielder who does a little bit of everything to balance out the two, that was Marquisio for those Juve teams. You think about the job Pogba did offensively and the DLP role that Andrea Pirlo did. Vidal and Marquisio on either side were like, let's just do the dog work. Let's just do all the work that no one else wants to do while also popping up goals, creating chances. They do a little bit of everything. I love Marquisio, man. So it kills me to put him bottom, but I think that's fair. We'll do one more. One more. I like you guys a lot. Chat, I fuck with y'all, man. Excuse my language. I like you guys so much, man. Because you guys, we're going to get along really well. We're going to get along really well. Javier Pastore, El Flaco, Johan Gorkuf, and Samir Nasri. Peak and career. Peak, it's Johan Gorkuf, guys. The best out of the three when they were at their very best was Johan Gorkuf. He absolutely was. I've never seen, Chat, a player as similar in style, in body, in style of play as Zinedine Zidane than Johan Gorkuf. I don't care how ridiculous that sounds. Johan Gorkuf is the closest thing to Zinedine Zidane I have ever seen in my life. Now, of course, in terms of actual talent, Zidane is clear. But in terms of the way they play football, guys, go watch the highlights back of Gorkuf. I'll post them on Twitter tonight if I have to. The movement of the hips, the way they touch the football, the way they dribble past players, it's like you cloned Zidane in a lab, made him infinitely less talented, but basically made them do the same things. Johan Gorkuf is Zidane's son, bro. I'm telling you, watching him for those 2 seasons at Bordeaux, when he won Player of the Year and won Ligue 1, the guy was a phenom. I was convinced he was going to the top. So peak, it's Gorkuf. Bench Nasri, sell Pastore in terms of peak. In terms of career, it's Nasri. Start. Bench. They both have 1 Ligue 1s. I would say Gorkuf and then bench and sell Pastore. Pastore, really, he was the first Parisian Galactico. He's the first PSG Galactico. I remember him at Palermo. Brilliant player. But, bro, all 3 of them, I absolutely love them. Gorkuf was a phenom, guys. If you haven't seen enough of peak Gorkuf, go check it out, guys. You guys, if you haven't seen him before, you'll be thinking, where was this player all my life? He's a jewel of a footballer. He's a jewel. Just because I'm nice, I'll do one more. Just because I'm nice. I hope you guys aren't... Oh, I got a super chat too. Hold up. Let me not miss that one. Shout out Glenn. Yeah, if you guys send super chats, I'll do those ones for sure. Oh, you guys are sending OD ones. Yeah, this is a lit community. No cap. Facts. I like you guys a lot, man. Excuse my language from before, but I like you guys a lot. You guys know ball, man. Y'all know ball. Hold up. Okay, so I answered this super chat. Prime Nani. Yeah, shout out to Glenn O'Hara. Thank you for the super chat, bro. Prime Nani, Ashley Young, Valencia. Start Nani by far. Nani. I remember, guys, not to go off topic, but there was this game against Arsenal a few years ago, 2009-10. United beat them 3-1 at the Emirates. Rooney scored, I think, 2. One of them was like this crazy counterattack where he scored this unbelievable goal. But Nani, guys, I remember at halftime. I'll post the comment. I'll post all of this on Twitter. I don't mind. I have all these clips on my computer. Nani at halftime, bro, was so good that Jamie Redknapp was basically saying, like, this is the reincarnation of Garrincha. Like, that's what the papers were saying the next day. They were comparing him to Garrincha. And I think they were with, I think Jamie Redknapp, I remember he was like saying, this is as good as Cristiano Ronaldo. This is as good as Lionel Messi. He's like, this is Ronaldo class from Nani. And he's like, forget about that, actually. This is Nani class. This is what Nani is capable of doing at his best.
he is capable of being one of the best players in the world. He absolutely destroyed Arsenal that day. If you remember, there was this one move where he's on the right-hand touchline. There's this one, like, the Messi feint, if you want, like, pretends to go this way and then goes the other way. But, like, flicks it over to the defender at the same time. Beats another man. And then he's basically on the end line and chips the goalkeeper. And I think Almunia helps palm it in. But I was always convinced it was going in anyways. And he chips him so disgustingly. Nani at his best, guys, really could have been like one of the best players of his generation. It was always inconsistency with him, too flaky, not enough end product at times. There was one season where he really got it right. 2010-11 when we won the league. He was, for me, he should have been player of the year. I know Bale won it. For me, Nani was the best player in the league that season. So for me, Nani by far is the best. Secondly, I would go Antonio Valencia. That 09-10 season, that 11-12 season where he came back from injury and like he actually pushed Manchester United to a possible title challenge. Of course, City ended up winning it. He was United's best player that year after Rooney. I'd go Valencia second. And Young at Villa was really good. Glenn, I don't know about you, but Young at United, I was never like really sold. I think his first few weeks at the club in 11-12, he was really good. He was really, really good. But I think he eventually got found out that season. And after that, bro, he was basically out of the fold at United. People forget that Ashley Young was a bum at United until 14-15, where Van Gaal came in and changed his life by playing him as a wingback. Because before that, bro, Ashley Young's career at United was going nowhere. He had the odd game here or there, but I remember 13-14 under Moyes. Every time this guy played, I remember there was this game against Stoke in the League Cup where he started the game and people were upset that he started. He scored the screamer, but people would used to get visibly upset when Ashley Young started games. Van Gaal saved his life by playing him as a wingback. He saved his career because he was going nowhere fast. So I would start Nani, bench Valencia, sell Young. And Patrick Vieira, Makelele, Keane, you must start Patrick Vieira. For me, that's not a tough one. Of course, Roy Keane would get his number every now and then. But I think as an actual footballer, Patrick Vieira is as complete as you can get, bro. Patrick Vieira in this era, one of the best midfielders of his generation, by far. One of the best midfielders of all time, period. So start Patrick Vieira. And then the second one is really, what do you want out of your midfielder? Because Makelele is the OG basically sweeper. Like you put him in front of your back four, wins the ball back better than maybe anyone ever, and then passes it to the more talented players. Where Roy Keane is more of like all action, to be honest with you. I think he's one of the most underrated footballers ever because I think people just think of him as a hard man. But Roy Keane is one of the best short passers the Premier League has ever seen. So I would go Roy Keane very highly. But again, Makelele is like part of Champions League winning. I'm going to go bias in my heart here. I'd start Patrick Vieira. Oh, but Makelele is class, man. Start Patrick Vieira, bench Roy Keane, sell Claude Makelele. That's what I would go for. David Smith, Sancho, Anthony, Martial. Oh, yo, my computer's about to die soon. So, let me do these last few ones and then we'll dip out because I don't want to die on you guys midstream. Sancho, Anthony, Martial. When everyone is fit, right? This is when everyone is fit, firing at their best. Hold on, I was going to say something crazy. When they're all at their best, I start Martial, I bench Sancho, I sell Anthony. But I don't think either of them, at this current moment, where they are as footballers, are good enough for the club. All three of them must improve. Martial may not even have the chance to do that because he's been given so many chances already. But I think when all three of them are at their best on his day, I go Martial, I go Sancho, I go Anthony. And this will be the last one, I think. Yeah, we'll do this last one. Ben says here, Lias, you need to see the vision. People are paying for these start sub sells. You need to run this more. I absolutely will, guys. I love doing this kind of stuff. I know people love match reactions and people love like that kind of content, but I love just talking about ball, to be honest with you guys. Like, I can't tell you the amount of football I've consumed in my life. So to be able to have this kind of community and share these kinds of like experiences that I've had and like these moments and memories that I've had watching football, I love doing it with you guys. So I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I do. I'll do this last super chat here by Natty Boy 100. Rooney, Bergkamp, Del Piero. Start Rooney. I don't think that one is a controversial one. I think Rooney is at a higher level than those three. Start Rooney, bench Bergkamp, sell Del Piero. That's my order for those three. Del Piero, guys, I'm a little mixed on him, to be honest. Obviously, he's an all-time great player. He's arguably Juventus' greatest player of all time, but I always thought Totti was better. Always. There's never been a day in my life where I thought Del Piero was better than Totti. Now, Bergkamp is a better conversation. And I think I would take Bergkamp. Del Piero, for me, is more of a goal threat, more of a goal scorer, but Bergkamp is a footballing genius. And y'all are throwing these at me, man. Oh, shit. My computer dies midstream. Guys, I'm sorry. I did the best I could. I'm at 9%. And then JWP, Juninho, Bergkamp free kicks. Oh, come on, man. This is tough. Statistically, I think JWP is the best one. I think if you go based on statistics, like who's made the most percentage, the highest percentage of free kicks, it's Ward-Prowse, it's Juninho, and I think it's David Beckham in that order. But game on the line. What's the expression? Fate of the universe on the line. Martian's got the death beam pointed at Earth. You gotta make it. I'm going Juninho, man. I'm going Juninho, bro. This guy had a laser of a free kick, bro. Anywhere on the pitch, it seemed like he was firing them in, bro. I think it was against Barca. He had this one. Oh my God, man. Freak. And I grew up on Juninho. If anyone can get me a Leon Juninho kit, back in the day when they had like the striped red and blue going down, let me know. I'll buy that off you, bro. I'll buy that off you. And I'll answer this last question because Daniel says, how do you watch so much ball? What was on US TV back in your day? Okay, so as you guys know, I grew up in the US, but I grew up in a very ethnic household. Like I grew up with parents who are not from the US. Their sport is football. You guys see my mom texting me, bro. My mom texted me about football this morning, right? I'll show you the messages. She kills me, actually. She goes, yesterday she texted me, why is Ten Hag don't play Pellistri more often is beyond me. I told Peppa, I was going to call my dad, this player makes a difference and is very smart. She texted me today. She said, I told Peppa Salah was going to miss. I've been binging football. So my family, bro, every single day in my household, it's football, 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 football. Therefore, they're willing to get any channel they have to. Whether it was Setanta Sports back in the day, ESPN used to show football. Before beIN Sports, there was Goal TV. Bro, I've been in these streets, man. People think just because I'm from the U.S., I haven't been watching football, bro. I've been watching football since I can remember. Obviously, the first tournament I remember is World Cup 2006. Because I remember Zidane, man. That's the only time I can ever remember crying over football. The World Cup final in 2006 when he got suspended. Because I see my family crying. And all I knew at the time was, okay, I'm going to cry too. This must be emotional. And since then, bro, it's consumed my life. For better or for worse. Depends who you ask. And even your mom loves ball. When even your mom loves ball, life is good. I love that, bro. Guys, I'm going to leave it here. It's been a great stream. Honestly, I've enjoyed this so much. I really enjoyed this. I can't wait to do this next week. I think next week we'll go Friday. It'll probably be a take that I get from the Champions League. Maybe I'll get Faisal on. We'll see what we do. But it'll definitely be next Friday, 8 p.m. UK time. I know the show is called 8 p.m. in Europe, but that's just the title. 8 p.m. in UK time. Make sure you guys tune in. If it's anything like this stream and the last stream, it's going to be a good one, bro. I'll make sure I fix the mic. I'll get you guys a lit guest. Maybe Cam will come on for a few minutes. I also have a surprise for you for this stream coming soon. I think you guys will really enjoy it, but I won't break it down any more than that. But yo, it's been me, myself, the S. Make sure you guys like the stream. Make sure you guys share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Notifications on. We've got a hell of a lot of content coming to you guys next week. This has been FTBL, 8 p.m. in Europe. We'll see you when you see you. Peace.